Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Ichigo awoke his true powers. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 12, The Last Secret, Inherited Light That Protects the Darkness. It was a cloudy night when Ichigo, Urahara and Isshin leisurely walked towards the hospital, in which Yuryu's father, Ryukin Ishida, worked as a director. During the entire walk, Ichigo kept himself 2 steps behind his father and the crazy scientist, trying to burn a hole in Isshin's head with his eyes. Outwardly, he was keeping his cool, but on the inside, his rage was making it hard to concentrate and think about the latest revelation. Ryukin Ishida. What does his father have in common with that man? Ichigo met the strict doctor only once in his life, and truthfully, the man didn't leave a good impression. In Ichigo's eyes, Ryukin was a cold man, incapable of expressing love or any other feelings at that. After that meeting, he finally understood Yuryu's attitude, which he probably got from his own father. The death of his mother was most likely the second reason, as Ichigo never heard him mention her, so he thought that she must have died at some point in past. So what connection did his father have with Ryukin? Clenching his fists, he shook a little. He wanted to scream at Isshin. He wanted to kick him in the balls. He wanted to yank his hair and punch him in the face, to make him feel pain. The only thing that was preventing him from doing so was not enough knowledge. Praying for his father's own good, he hoped that there were some crucial circumstances for this silence, that evidently went for far too long. As they neared the hospital, deep voice called out to Ichigo in his mind. Ichigo, when everyone will be present, let me out to participate in this conversation. Why? Is there any problem, Zangetsu? Ichigo asked mentally. His inner spirit shook his head. No, there is not. But my presence will be needed to clear some things out. Raising one eyebrow, Ichigo nodded and looked up, when he noticed that they were at the place. After a couple of minutes of wandering through the halls, they found Ryukin in his office. When he saw Isshin, he grimaced and closed his eyes. Isshin, always a pleasure to see you come uninvited. Isshin ignored the jab and sidestepped to the side, showing Ichigo to Ryukin. The doctor raised one of his eyebrows. Kurosaki Ichigo, nice to see you. Likewise, sir. Ryukin frowned and turned to Isshin. Are you sure he's your son? He's too polite for that. Ichigo's mouth twitched, while Isshin sighed for the second time. Ryukin, it's time. That seemed to gain Ryukin's attention, and he carefully studied Ichigo. So, the shitty father finally decided to reveal something that should have been already revealed? Masaki would be so proud. He stated sarcastically. Ichigo froze at those words. Why, you knew my mom? Ryukin only laughed hollowly. Knew? Kid, I was supposed to marry her. Seeing that Ichigo's mind shut itself down, Isshin sighed again. Let's start from the beginning, Ryukin. There's no need to be cruel. Ryukin glanced at Ichigo's hurt expression and rubbed his temples. Yeah, right. Let's take this elsewhere. We're probably going to need more spacious room, if you're thinking what I'm thinking. Isshin nodded. Yeah. Urahara had a thoughtful expression, standing behind them. It's almost as if I'm invisible. Under the Karakura Hospital. Very nice place, Ryukin-san. Urahara stated jovially when he entered the Ishida's hidden chamber, secretly built right under the hospital. Ichigo. Ichigo. Isshin punched his son lightly to snap him out of his thoughts. He has been unresponsive since Ryukin told him about him being the very person his mother should have married. Ichigo rubbed the sore place inside. Yeah, I'm listening. Ryukin walked to the center of the chamber and turned around. This is a hidden chamber devised from soul-synthesized silver and glass. I used this chamber to return Yuryu's powers back to him. Since the material these walls are made of hides the Ryatsu inside, we can talk without worrying about interruptions. Isshin nodded. Exactly, so we should start from the dash. Wait a sec, Dad. Ichigo interrupted him. What is it? The older Shinigami asked impatiently. Zangetsu, my Zanpakuto spirit wants to participate in this conversation. Wait a moment till I'll materialize him. His Zanpakuto spirit? All three of them thought in surprise. Come out, Zangetsu. Ichigo thought and pulled in his mind, materializing the man in black robe. In a matter of seconds, Ishin turned into a Shinigami form and pulled out his own Zanpakuto. Urahara jumped back and readied Beneheim, while Ryukin instantly formed his Reisher bow. You! They all yelled in anger. Nice to meet you, Ishin Kurosaki, Ryukin Ishida, and Urahara Kisuke. Whoa! What are you guys doing? Ichigo jumped in surprise. Ichigo! Why is this man here? Ishin turned to his son with serious expression on his face. Ichigo only looked blankly on him. What are you talking about? This is Zangetsu, my Zanpakuto spirit. Urahara, Ishin, and Ryukin widened their eyes. So that's how he created his blade. Urahara thought nervously. In no way, so he's... Ishin gripped his Zanpakuto tightly. I see. Was the only thing that Ryukin thought. You don't need to overreact. I'm not here to harm anyone, I'll only help to explain things to Ichigo as he needs to know. The date is coming, after all. Date? Ichigo asked dumbly. Ichigo. Ishin gulped and looked at his son with worry in his eyes, sweating all over. Don't say it yet, Ishin Kurosaki. He needs to know the beginning before that. Ishin was immediately hushed. Ichigo just looked between the faces of everyone, absolutely confused and feeling something bad at the back of his spine. Enough with this bullshit. I'm tired of mindfucks. Just tell me the whole truth. Tell me everything. He exclaimed, looking at Ryukin, who begrudgingly let his bow dissolve into spirit particles. All right. You should probably sit down, kid, as some things will probably shock you to your core. Ryukin said to Ichigo, who swallowed heavily and slowly sat on the cold floor. The only man in white sighed and looked up. Urahara Kisuke told me that you met the Ancient and heard about the Soul King's interference with Masaki's death. I assume that the Ancient told you his story, trying to justify it a little. However, he probably left out crucial things. You see, 1,000 years ago, there was a huge battle happening in Soul Society. On one side, the divisions, nowadays known as Gotei 13, and on the other side. Ryukin clenched his fists. The Quincy. Ichigo raised his eyebrow. But I heard that the Shinigami fought the Ancient and his son. Indeed. Son of the Ancient was the first human being that acquired the power to manipulate spirit particles, the spirit energy. The first Quincy, Awoke. The first Quincy? I'm sure that this thought happened to flash across your mind before. How did the Quincy start? Where did they come from? It is simple. Awoke was a being, conceived by a powerful spirit and a human. As souls could have never get into such a contact with humans before, it was a unique case. He was obviously killed when he was only few weeks, but his powers came with him into the afterlife. He lived in Soul Society as the sibling of the late Soul King. After he found out about his roots, about the false truth he was living under, and after his younger sibling took the throne that, in his mind, belonged to him, he located his real father and started to create plans how to overthrow the Soul King. Roughly at that time, he started to visit the human world, bestowing selected humans with the portion of his own power. Using many means, he helped them develop their abilities and taught them how to kill hollows and became their king. As their progenitor, he created a small army out of them and slowly turned their minds against the Soul Society, using them as his soldiers. He took the strongest of them, the ones whose abilities were most developed, with him to the Soul Society along with his father to fight the Shinigami. Wow! I never knew. Ichigo thought in wonder. Ryukin grimaced before talking again. Eventually, this foolishness stopped and Awoke was defeated, although not killed. Using his own powers after his Shinigami weakened Awoke, the Soul King sealed him into a new dimension. It was a subdimension of hell. Not many know this, but this subdimension is actually called Mukin and it serves as the prison for the worst criminals. Not so long ago, it was used to imprison someone who almost decimated the Soul Society in the Winter War, Aizen Sasuke. Ichigo was glad that he was already sitting, because his legs felt weak after that statement. Why the hell would they send that bastard there? Are they stupid? Urahara shook his head. You have to understand something, Kurosaki-san. Mukin isn't a simple subdimension with barriers and limitations. It's literally an empty void, an endless nothingness that nobody can escape from. Nobody suspected that it was possible for two prisoners to meet in Mukin. He explained while Ichigo grimaced. Still, it's stupid. I agree. Ryukin unexpectedly nodded in acknowledgement. No matter how small was the possibility, they shouldn't have used it. But that isn't all. Imprisonment isn't the only use of Mukin. Kurosaki, do you know what happens to those humans who commit unspeakable terrors, murders, rapes during their life? Where do they go after death? He asked Ichigo. Hell. Ichigo answered quickly. Yes, and what do you think happens to Quincy after his death? During our lives we kill hollows, completely erasing their existence, thus murdering the souls. It is also considered as a hideous crime, isn't it? Ryukin stated, making Ichigo widen his eyes. Why you go to hell? But most of the time you're only defending yourself. Isshin and Urahara actually looked down at that. Not exactly. Why do you think I gave up on being Quincy? Why do you think I never wanted for Yuria to become one? Because if you use your Quincy powers during your life, you'll unavoidably end up in Mukin. Wah! There is a legend that wanders in Quincy folklore. The sealed king of the Quincy regained his heartbeat again after 900 years, regained his intellect after 90 years, regained his power after 9 years and regained his world after 9 days. Ichigo blinked once. Twice. What? So the date, you mean it should be now, great. Just great. He grimaced. Not so long ago, Soul Society had problem with only Aizen and now even Quincy King? Yes, and he won't be alone. Ryukin continued. What do you mean? The doctor sighed. Iwak was sealed in Mukin, however his power is so great that eventually, after almost 1,000 years, he will come back. During those years, every Quincy that died went straight to Mukin and I believe that they somehow found him. Most likely they started to recreate their territory there, waiting patiently for the return of their king. This knowledge eventually got out to the world of the living and to those Quincy who were still alive. It spurred a lot of activity on their side, resulting in the massacre 200 years ago, when Shinigami tried to exterminate all of Quincy. In that moment, Ichigo remembered Yuria's words from when they were still enemies. Yeah, Yuria mentioned that massacre. Ryukin nodded. I thought so. The Shinigami took it as a win, since the remaining Quincy went into hiding. What Shinigami didn't understand was, however, that this was the actual plan. To get yourself killed, so that you'd rejoin your only king in the afterlife. Ichigo opened his mouth dumbly and turned to Urahara and his father. If I knew this sooner, I would have warned the Soul Society, but I found out about this only after I met Ryukin-san. Urahara stated, shrugging sadly. Hold on, if you never wanted for Yuria to use his Quincy powers, why did you restore them? Ichigo asked accusingly. Because I told him the entire truth already and I let him to decide his own fate. I'm his father, but unlike my own parents, I refuse to dictate his whole life. He's smart enough to know what's best for him. Ryukin answered coolly. And I'm the shitty dad here. Isshin muttered and received a dirty look from Ichigo. On the contrary, Dad, I agree with Ryukin-san, actually. Yuria was really smart and using secrets so that you could control your son is bullshit. Ichigo quickly said, surprising Isshin and Ryukin, who turned to Isshin. I have to ask again, is he really your son? Isshin pouted, making Ryukin turn away in disgust. Yuria knows almost everything I know, but you, Ichigo, you know nothing. Isshin, you want to say it, or should I? Ryukin asked after a moment of silence. I'll do it. Ishin glanced at Ichigo, sighing heavily. I'll just hope he won't kill me. I'm sorry that I lied to you, son, but no more. Do you still remember the talk we had, before you had to leave the world of the living? Ishin asked carefully. Ichigo just nodded and motioned him to continue. As you were already aware, I never told you the entire truth. I heard from Kisuke that you met Kokaku and Ganja Shiba and they told you that you are their cousin? Again, Ichigo nodded. Well, technically, that's a lie. Excuse me? Ichigo was sure he misheard. Wiping a little sweat from his brow, as his son released some of his ryatsu directly at him, Ishin continued. In truth, I was adopted by Shiba clan around 50 years ago as their long-lost uncle, but I was originally born in the royal realm as I am the direct descendant of the Soul King. Obviously, Kokaku and Ganju aren't aware of that. With his eyes bulging out of their eye sockets, Ichigo gasped a little. You mean I'm a descendant of somebody who killed my mother? Ishin quickly shook his head. It's more complicated than that, and I'll get to that. More than 50 years ago, I was sent on a mission from the Soul King to monitor the Soul Society, observe anything out of the ordinary. He was fearing betrayals, as the date of the Awaka's rebirth was slowly coming and there was nothing even he could do. Not even his powers could erase his elder sibling, and since his parents weren't living anymore, nor he could destroy Muken. Therefore, he could only wait for the inevitable and somehow prepare for it. So, I was adopted by the Shiba clan, eventually becoming head after I was elected to become a captain of the 10th Division. Then, around 20 years ago, there was a grim report saying that something fishy was going on in the world of the living. My officers were getting slaughtered in Narakishi town, so I went there to scout the situation myself. Narakishi town? That's nearby. When I got there, I came across a powerful hollow. He was unlike anything I met before. We fought, and before I knew it, we crossed the jurisdiction boundary, landing in Karakura town. As I released my Zanpakuto and was preparing to kill the hollow, somebody attacked me from behind, wounding me and preventing me from eventually releasing my Bankai, which is a killer for my body to handle, was at that time. Try to guess who attacked me. With wide eyes, Ichigo opened his mouth. Aizen. He whispered, making Ishin nod. Yes. The bastard used Kisuke's cloak to conceal himself, so I didn't know what happened then. With that wound, fighting became hard. That was when your mother, Masaki, came and tried to help me by attacking the hollow, catching his attention. But how could she attack him? Wait, how could she even saw that hollow, unless... Ichigo's eyes widened even further and his breath died in his throat. Ishin sadly nodded. Yes, your mother was a Quincy. Soul Society, 1st Division Barracks. Captain Suifeng, I was awaiting you with Kurosaki Ichigo by your side. Yamamoto squinted his eyes in suspicion. Suifeng waited for a few moments at Urahara's shop along with Yoruchi, but eventually, she decided to return to Soul Society. I know, Captain Commander, and I apologize, but Kurosaki insisted on talking with his father about some secrets first. Suifeng answered truthfully and gulped a little when a heavy ryatsu pressed on her. Captain Suifeng, I think I stressed quite strongly how important it was for Kurosaki Ichigo to return to Soul Society. Captain Commander raised his voice a little. I am aware of that, but, sir, I don't think Kurosaki Ichigo will want to come back to the Soul Society. Suifeng stated a little bit sadly, shocking the captains. What are you talking about, Captain Suifeng? Kurosaki-san knows why he can't remain in the world of the living, so there is only Soul Society left. Unohana objected calmly. No. There is still Hueco Mundo, where I'm afraid, Kurosaki actually befriended the remaining inhabitants of Las Noches. Suifeng answered with a shaking head. I think the right question is, why wouldn't Kurosaki wanted to come back? Kayaraku asked. Suifeng grimaced a little. Kurosaki, came across and fought somebody that calls himself the Ancient, the first hollow ever. What? Yamamoto asked in disbelief. I'm afraid that's still not all, sir. This Ancient told him something that may actually cause Kurosaki to turn against Soul Society. Turn against Soul Society? Surely you overreact, Captain. Toshiro stated, inwardly cursing. Ichigo was the best thing that happened to Momo and he would force him to come back, if only for her sake. As thanks to Ichigo, she was feeling better and actually communicated with other people. With a sigh, Suifeng prepared for the worst. It turned out that the Soul King is responsible for the death of Kurosaki's mother. If Suifeng awaited the outbursts and shocked screams, the deadly silence was a lot worse. Could you repeat that, Captain Suifeng? I think I heard something outrageous. Kayaraku recovered first. No, you heard right, Captain Kayaraku. The Soul King is somehow responsible for the death of his mother. It seems that the Hollow wasn't the one that killed her, or something like that. Damn. Yamamoto cursed, something he rarely did in the past. Yamaji? Kayaraku asked worriedly. As he looked around, he noticed that the other captains were taking the news badly. Why would the Soul King be interested in a human? Most of them thought. Captain Commander sighed. If that is the case, I think that my theories have just been proven right. What theory, Genryo Saidano? Yukitake asked. That Kurosaki Ichigo's father is not Isshin Kurosaki, but he changed his name from Isshin Shiba, the previous captain of the 10th Division, and the only descendant of the Soul King himself. With Ichigo. Oh my, what a bad truck. Are you okay, sweetie? Masaki asked his son, wiping away the water from his face. Sorry, let's switch. I'll walk on the roadside, she said, lightly grabbing his hands. It's okay, I'll stay on this side. I'm wearing a raincoat, so I'll be fine. I'll protect you from now on, Mama. 9-year-old Ichigo said bravely. Oh my, how reliable. Masaki said, gently smiling at him. Ichigo mumbled while she finished wiping away the water. There, all cleaned up. Now, let's go. She grabbed his hand and started to run lightly, laughing lightly. Mum. Present Ichigo thought with tears in his eyes. Why didn't you tell me? He turned to Isshin, who held his head down. Because there was no need for you to know, son. As far as everything went, we were a perfectly normal, happy family. And don't you dare to say that if you knew, Misaki could have been alive. It's not your fault that she's dead, just listen to the rest of the story. Isshin said, and suddenly, he looked a whole lot older, as if he was shouldering hundreds of years on his back. Having no strength to answer, Ichigo only nodded. I thought that it was foolish, attacking that hollow just like that, head on. It was clear that he was faster than her aim, and I feared that a civilian would get killed because of my inability. Imagine my surprise when she used the hollow's instincts against him. Luring him to attack her, she allowed the hollow to bite her and used that moment to blow his head off. So Mom was actually pretty badass. Despite the tears, Ichigo managed to smile. The hollow became unstable and almost blew up next to her. I managed to somehow save her, but it cost me injuries, which she healed in return. That was the first time I met your mother. After the incident, I returned to Soul Society but never told anyone about her, nor about her being a Quincy. There was also another thing. I should have focused on my job, on my mission, but ever since that meeting, I couldn't stop thinking about Masaki and wanted to see her again. I guess it was love at first sight. He trailed off and pulled out a cigarette, lighting it swiftly. Now this reminds me her better. After some time, I sneaked out to the world of the living, where I learned a terrible truth, but I think Ryukin should say something before that. Ryukin nodded and Ichigo turned to him. You see. Ichigo. Masaki and I were amongst the last pure Quincy in Japan. We were even distant relatives, but since my mother wanted to keep the Quincy lineage pure and since Masaki had no other family, she invited Masaki to live with us so that we would get to know each other and eventually she would marry me. I have to say, I was against it. It felt forced and I knew that Masaki loved me as a brother, so that marriage would feel weird. On the night Isshin fought that hollow, she sneaked out of the mansion, feeling the immense Ryatsu outside. I caught her, but she argued with me that allowing somebody else to die while you have the power to save him, no matter who that is, she said she would regret it forever. I couldn't say anything to her, so I let her. Ryukin said and clenched his fists. I screwed up just as badly as Ishin. That night, Masaki was supposed to return unharmed. She was a Quincy who possessed the strongest blood vein in the history of the Quincy, only the Awake himself was better at it. So that you would know, blood means using one's blood to increase his own abilities. Blood vein serves to increase durability of one's skin, making it almost impenetrable, while blood artery is used to increase the attack power. Somehow, however, the hollow managed to bite through her blood vein and infected her with the hollow pathogen. Many questions were raised in Ichigo's mind, swirling around like a torrent of energy, making him feel a terrible headache. Wait. I never saw something like that in Yuryu. True, usage of blood is shown by a special pattern visible on your skin. Yuryu is not a pure Quincy, and to acquire it, he needs to train. Me and Masaki were pure and our blood manifested itself early in our lives. Ryukin answered, awaiting another question. What about this pure, not pure bullshit? Ichigo asked with a grimace. Ryukin rubbed his temples and grimaced himself. At the beginning, there were only pure Quincy, ect, which means pure blood, literally. When a Quincy is attacked by a hollow, getting an injury, his blood is poisoned with the hollow Ryuryoku, making him a gemished, a mixed blood. A gemished Quincy can only produce gemished offspring. An ect Quincy produces ect offspring, who can be turned into gemished. Yuryu's mother, Katajiri, was once my personal maid who loved me dearly, but she was a gemished. Therefore, my mother refused her as my wife. After Masaki married Ishin, however, she let me marry her. That's why Yuryu's is a gemished. Talented gemished, I must say, but don't tell him that, I don't want to encourage him. Ryukin said while looking sideways and glanced at Ishin expectantly. So he actually cares about Yuryu. Ichigo thought, actually glad. Right. So, when I came to the world of the living, I found Ryukin, carrying comatose Masaki and being attacked by a hollow. That's when I found out that she was infected and practically dying. That's also when I first met Kasuke here. Ishin pointed at Urahara, who was silent through the entire conversation. Yes, I ran into young Masaki-san a few hours before and felt the hollow Ryatsu inside her getting stronger. But I couldn't just snatch her away, so I waited till something happened. This way, I came across these two arguing about Masaki-san and I offered them a solution. Ichigo refocused on Urahara, as it seemed he would be talking more. You see, Kurosaki-san, the hollow Aizen created was different. It poisoned a Quincy and created a unique case I never came across before. Normally, her soul should have died after the poisoning, but she was fighting back, losing, but still fighting. I had some experience with Vazards already, so I was confident I could do something. She would never go back the way she was before, but she would live. Hollowification was meant to be used on Shinigami, by breaking the boundaries between the souls to try and turn the original soul into something more powerful. But it can't be controlled and results in something that's called soul suicide. But the opposing force can recreate the balance of the soul, preventing the soul suicide. Using the light of Quincy's holy arrow and a human soul, I cured the Vazards. Do you see? Shinigami, hollows, human soul and a Quincy power, these four sides of force can create something spectacular. In Masaki's case, she was a Quincy with a hollow Ryuryoku inside her. There was still a Shinigami power of a human left. Ichigo instantly turned to Ishin. Precisely. Ishin-san offered himself to be the one that would prevent Masaki's hollowification till the day she'd die. In the process, he was forced to live in a special jigai, which turned him into a human, and he lost his Shinigami powers as they were suppressing the hollow and was left only with the ability to sense Ryatsu. Kurosaki-san, do you see why everyone thinks you are probably the most interesting and important person right now? You are a natural hybrid, something that every scientist would want to achieve, a perfect transcendental being in whom all of four forces work together, creating a perfect balance. Something in his words caused Ichigo to frown as he snapped at Urahara. So I'm just an experiment to you? Urahara quickly shook his head. Of course not, Kurosaki-san. I'm interested you, but I'm not the one who thought of you like that. Aizen did. Mentioning Aizen again made a flash to fly across Ichigo's eyes. So that's what the ancient was talking about. The piece of his mask he gave Aizen so that he could create a special hollow. It was that hollow that bit my mum and left me with inner hollow. The trio exchanged worried looks. I did not know that. Urahara pointed out deep in thoughts. That's why it could penetrate even Masaki's blood vein. Ryukin cursed under his breath. Ichigo frowned. You still didn't finish the story. I get how Ryukin-san knows you, but why did the ancient mention that the Soul King had his fingers in her death? Isshin stepped forward. You should have realized it by now, Ichigo. Me, a direct descendant of the Soul King, Masaki, the direct descendant of Iwak. The unlikely duo with great potential got married and had a son who inherited these potential and now possess his own potential so great, it can threaten the strongest beings in this world. The Quincy legend about the Quincy King. He replied anxiously. You mean? After my soul got connected with Masaki's and after she graduated from high school, Masaki was expelled from Ishida's family. I used my knowledge from the Shinigami Academy and created a clinic. Masaki often visited me whenever she had a break at the university and eventually, you were born. What happened afterwards is well known to you. However, you still don't know the real reason why she died. Isshin trailed off and clenched his jaw, gritting his teeth. That night, when you got attacked by Grand Fisher, Masaki should have been able to get rid of him in no time, that's why I wasn't worried about her. Ryukin mentioned Katajiri, Uria's mother. Did you ever hear him talking about her? No. Ichigo looked at him in confusion. The same night Masaki died, on June 17, Katajiri lost her consciousness and 3 months later, died. What? What the fuck happened that day? Ichigo asked, in his mind pitying Uriu. I never knew he lost his mother almost at the same time I did. On that day, Iwak made a selection of Quincy. You heard that Quincy legend. In order for Iwak to regain his power, he stole the power from the mixed-blood Quincy he considered impure and made it his own. He selected Katajiri, who was mixed blood from the day she was born, in Masaki, who got infected by Hollow Ryuryoku, but still remained a Quincy with enough power to be considered pure. Katajiri always possessed a weak body, and losing her Quincy powers eventually resulted in her death as her body couldn't handle it. But Masaki was different, stronger, and the only thing that happened was the fact that she lost her powers, but she should have remained alive. That's where the Soul King comes. Isshin bit his lip and almost shook with fury. He somehow found out about my location and that I was married with a woman whose veins contained the blood of the one that wanted him dead. Soul King's descendant with his enemy's descendant? Never. So he used his power and prevented the Shinigami from coming to Masaki's rescue. Grand Fisher was a wanted hollow even back then, and Soul Society had him on their radar and knew that he was targeting Masaki, but on the order from the Soul King, they let her die. I think that the Soul King wanted you dead too, but you survived. Godash. Isshin stumbled when Ichigo's angry Ryatsu pressed on them. Bastard, Aizen, Iwak. The Soul King, they will all pay. Ichigo muttered darkly. Ichigo, calm down. Isshin exclaimed and raised his hands when Ichigo turned to him with an angry stare. I won't tell you not to hate those people, but just don't act rashly. Think about it. You can't get to Soul King, and even if you somehow succeeded and for example killed him, what do you think would happen? Aizen would won, Iwak would won, as that's precisely what they want. You would condemn the whole Soul Society to death, your every friend. Would you be happy? Isshin tried to convince him. What are you expecting from me, Dad? That I should just turn a blind eye on that? I should forget? Ichigo yelled at him, making Isshin to shook his head. No, Ichigo. I expect you to learn how to live with it. Revenge is never the solution. If you join Iwak, it would result in many deaths. On the other hand, I don't expect you to just shake hands with the Soul King. Believe me, I want to kick his ass as much as you want to. Change, Ichigo. Be the man that your mother always wanted you to be. Be the one who protects. You've been doing it amazingly till now. Don't stop because of your past. Look forward and abandon your fears. You have the power to destroy the world, but instead, use it to change it. Use your power wisely. Ichigo looked at him with hard gaze. You're expecting too much from me, Dad. I'm not a superhero from an action movie. I'm not a selfless person. I'm not even a good person. Do you know that my Zanpakuto power is darkness? What does that tell you about me? He dropped his gaze and looked at his trembling hands. Sighing, Isshin walked to him and grabbed his shoulders. It tells me nothing, son. Your power tells nothing. It's your actions that tells me that you are not a good person but a great one. You were able to get over your mother's death, and you even befriended the kind responsible for Masaki's death. You befriended hollows, because you choose to. Don't sell yourself cheaply, Ichigo. You are already a better person than I'd ever be, and your mother would be proud on you. Isshin said, forcing Ichigo to raise his head. As their gazes met, Ichigo could saw in Isshin's eyes that he really meant what he just said. Thanks, Dad, but I don't know. What would you do? Isshin chuckled sadly and shook his head. It doesn't matter what would I do. Choose yourself. It's the only way. If I may. Ichigo and Isshin quickly turned, completely forgetting about the last person in the room. Isshin frowned while looking at the man in black. Ichigo, there is a last thing that could shake your resolve, so prepare for it. He stated and walked away from Ichigo. Ichigo, didn't you find it weird that you possessed no physical sword when you pulled me out on that day in the shattered shaft? That you created a sword from nothing? Didn't you hear a voice inside your head when you were using the actual powers of your Zanpakuto? That everyone in this room reacted violently when they saw me? His inner spirit asked immediately. And no? Ichigo asked with a dreadful feeling in his spine. Didn't you find it weird that I only taught you Getsuga Tensho? That I never bothered with another techniques until you merged with Shirasaki? I told you that you held every potential there is. You now know that you are an offspring of a Quincy. It never occurred to you that despite that, you never used a Quincy technique before? After that a short silence followed and nobody moved. Ichigo, do you know what I am? Who I am? Zangetsu? No, Ichigo, until now, you never met your actual Zanpakuto. Only time you saw somebody similar to him was when you met Tensa Zangetsu. My name is Iwak. I am a representation of your Quincy power. Feeling weak, Ichigo had to grab the wall to be able to still stand. What does that mean? Are you saying you're not Zangetsu? Why? Answer me. He yelled in confusion. It's exactly as I said, Ichigo. I am a representation of your Quincy powers, therefore, my appearance is that of Iwak from 1,000 years ago. When I told you before that you never used actual abilities of your Zanpakuto, I told you the truth. You know that your hollow was inside of you from the day you were born and was also your Shinigami power. But a hollow is a hollow, and in the shattered shaft, you were becoming one at alarming pace, fueling his power. You couldn't pull out your Shinigami power without pulling out him, that's why I showed up. Nevertheless, I was still powerless as your Quincy powers are still dormant, so I did the only thing I could. I absorbed the portion of your Shinigami powers and acted as your Zanpakuto, allowing you to fight. That's why your hollow wanted out, why he interfered so much. It was your Shinigami powers trying to usurp back the control. When you died in your fight with Ulquiorra and merged with Shirasaki, I could no longer stop the power of your Zanpakuto when its true powers finally emerged. As the weakness in Ichigo's legs subsided, anger instead boiled in his veins. So you're really not Zangetsu, so what are you? Are you an ally or are you my enemy? He yelled in frustration. Iwak closed his eyes for a moment. I'm not your ally, nor your enemy. Aside from the moment when I told you my name, my words and my heart never lied to you. You must have noticed it so far, Ichigo. I acted as your Zanpakuto, but whenever I taught you how to use your Zanpakuto, I always used Shirasaki, who was the one with Zangetsu for a long time. Ichigo's eyes widened as he remembered. Now begins the true test if you are worthy of using me, Ichigo. If you want to wield me again, then take me back with your own hands. You opponent is yourself. Iwak said as Ichigo and Shirasaki stood against each other in his inner world, where Ichigo was pulled into during his fight with Kenpachi. Where is old man Zangetsu? Ichigo asked. He was in his inner world fighting Shirasaki again, trying to access his hollow powers. Shirasaki only looked at him with amused eyes. You bastard! Ichigo growled. I don't get it. Shirasaki suddenly said. That thing you're holding, isn't that the Zangetsu you're talking about? He pointed at Ichigo. Or is it the one that I'm holding? He finished and drew out a white Zangetsu. You asked me where Zangetsu is? I'll tell you. Shirasaki jumped above Ichigo, slashing at him. I'm Zangetsu. No way. Shirasaki was trying to tell me, but why couldn't he just tell me directly? Didn't I merge with him? Ichigo was puzzled. He couldn't tell you because I didn't allow him to. When Ishin told you some time ago that Shirasaki became a separate entity after your fight with Byakuya. Well, he wasn't quite right. He gained only more power. However, during Ulquiorra's fight, he separated himself from Zangetsu completely and remained only as a representation of your hollow powers. When he was giving you hints, he was still one with the true Zangetsu. That's why when your life was seriously in danger, the one who saved you wasn't me, it was always Shirasaki. Ichigo managed to widen his eyes when Iwak continued with downcast expression. I didn't want you to become as Shinigami. That's why I tried to suppress your potential, showing you only the Getsuga Tensho. I always wanted to become the core of your power. Why? Ichigo asked pleadingly. Why? Is it strange for me to want to keep you away from fights and danger? If you become a Shinigami, you will unavoidably be involved in fights. You will be hurt. You will suffer, and one day, I will definitely have to kill you with my own hands. Iwak stated and revealed the rapier sword under his robes. Seeing that, Ichigo frowned sadly, clenching his fist. I mustn't let you become a Shinigami. If you become one, I'll have to kill you. Ichigo readied himself for an attack. Or so I thought. However, you eventually did become a Shinigami. You had a chance, trained hard, and despite getting hurt and suffering you chose to pursue that path. Whenever I saw you like that, my heart would waver. Eventually, instead of stopping you from becoming a Shinigami, my heart started to help you in your path. And I'll be happy to step back when you'll unlock your Quincy power, relinquishing me of the control of your Shinigami powers. I assume that's why we're here. Isn't that right, Ishin-san, Ryukin-san? Both men looked at him in shock. They never expected this kind of development. Ichigo, so your heart managed to move even this man, you truly are a wonderful son. If only Masaki could see you. Ishin thought happily. What do you mean? Why would you need to step back? Ichigo recoiled in shock, but Iwak interrupted him. Ichigo, you chose your own path. You chose to be a Shinigami, therefore, it will be that power that will be your core. Me, as your Quincy power and Shirasaki as your hollow power are secondary powers that will help you achieve transcendence. We will always see you and help you, so don't worry, now Ryukin-san, if you would. Iwak turned to Ryukin who glanced at Ishin and seeing him nod he formed his rapier bow. Ichigo, to unlock your Quincy side, you need to come into contact with the Ryuryoku of a pure Quincy. So far, you came into contact only with your friend, Yurio, who is mixed blood and his Ryuryoku wasn't potent enough. That's why Ryukin is here, remember, Ichigo. Abandon your fears and only look forward. Iwak said as a holy arrow shot out of Ryukin's bow, hitting Ichigo slightly above his heart, before he had a chance to protest. With his hands in front of him, Ichigo slowly fell on the floor. As his consciousness was slowly fading away, Ichigo noticed that Iwak was slowly dissolving, getting absorbed by him, and he remembered all the moments when this man that was supposed to be his enemy, his ally, helped him all the way, becoming a mentor that guided him to the path of the protector. The last thing Ichigo saw was a small tear escaping from Iwaka's eye, all the while smiling encouragingly at him. Soul Society. Assembled captains all stared at the captain commander. But I thought Captain Shiba was Kia? Toshiro stated in disbelief at the mentioning of his old captain. Yamamoto stroked his beard. We assumed that he was Kia, since his Ryatsu disappeared and no body has been found and the search for him resulted in nothing. But it is possible that he somehow survived, and if he's indeed the father of Kurosaki Ichigo, the young substitute's well-known associate is Urahara Kisuke himself, and that man is certainly capable of impossible things. If he met Ishin. Captain Kuratsuchi, your opinion? He turned to the mad scientist who scoffed. Urahara Kisuke, yes. He was the man that created the undetectable Jigai Kichiki Rukia used after she lost her spiritual powers, so it is possible. Question is, why would he help Ishin Shiba? They never met before. However, it is true that Urahara plans years ahead, and he may have helped Shiba so that he would see what happens if a Shinigami has a child with a human. There are many possibilities. Mayuri answered. Why would even Shiba-san needed Urahara-san's help? He was quite strong, even for a captain. Yukitake wondered aloud. Meanwhile, Jin was sweating a little in his corner. He was contemplating about revealing what he knew. I'm sorry, Ichigo-chan, if I concealed this, I'd be finally sent to prison or possibly execution, and this would get out either way. Steeling himself, he stepped out, surprising the captains. Ikimaru, what do you want? Toshiro asked slowly, barely hiding his emotions. He still haven't forgiven him for his actions. Captain Commander. I think I can enlighten all of you, as I know what probably happened to Shiba-san, but I'd like to ask that you to stop Hitsugaya-kun from butchering me. Jin called out to Yamamoto in his sly voice. The Captain Commander squinted his eyes and nodded. Well, it was around 20 years ago when Jin started and explained about Aizen's experiment with the piece of the ancient's mask and about his involvement with Ishin's fight. And then a girl came to help him, killing the hollow by herself. She was a Quincy, and from what I know, her name was Masaki Kurosaki. Jin said, and a sweat appeared on his forehead when Yamamoto released his Ryatsu on him. Why haven't you said this sooner? Do you want to get prosecuted again? Ah, but you never asked. Not wanting to rile the old man further, he continued. The Whitey, or as Kanami-san used to call that hollow, infected the girl with his Ryuryoku, and from what I know from Aizen, Urahara Kisuke was the one that helped to stabilize her. According to Aizen, it is most likely that Urahara used Shiba-san's Shinigami power and connected his soul to the girl's, preventing her from undergoing hollowification, making Shiba-san lose his powers and live as a normal human. Yamamoto widened his eyes along with most of the captains. So, that makes Kurosaki Ichigo, son of the captain of the Gotei 13 and a Quincy mother. And most likely, the inner hollow he possesses is the one he inherited from his mother. Jin finished. So that's why he's such a monster. He's basically a combination of every power. Suifeng stated in disbelief. That's not all, you simpletons. Mayuri surprised them with an angry shout. Whatever do you mean, Captain Kuratsuchi? Kayaraku asked calmly. Don't you realize? He's a human with Shinigami soul, inner hollow and Quincy powers, making him a perfect hybrid. If he can combine these powers, he can easily achieve transcendence and becoming a being easily equal to the likes of the Soul King. Mayuri replied, excited. That's not good. Suifeng said grimly. You said it. Now that he knows that the Soul King is somehow connected to his mother's death, and if he has enough power to rival him, what do you think he'll do? Jin grinned at her, making Yamamoto's eyes widen. Wait a minute, Kuratsuchi-san, you said if he can combine, didn't he already combine them? Kamamura asked suddenly. Mayuri just sneered. If he did, his Ryatsu would be different. No, we know that he merged with his hollow side, which gave him quite a boost, and we also know that he created his sword from nothing. Does that ring any bells? You don't mean? Yukitake turned to him with wide eyes. Yes, I do. For those who didn't understand, it's most likely that Kurosaki Ichigo, until this day, wasn't even using his real Shinigami powers. I think I do not follow, Captain. Toshiro said, making Mayuri clench his fists. Isn't it odd? He emerged from the shattered shaft Urahara Kisku put him into with Shinigami powers, while he was hollowifying. A human, with an inner hollow inside him, emerging with Shinigami powers? His soul would have crumbled. I'm now only hypothesizing, but I think I know what happened. He didn't emerge with Shinigami powers. It means that he created his sword using Quincy Rasher manipulation. It means that the Zanpakuto he was using till now wasn't even his real Zanpakuto. It means that his Quincy powers acted like an imposter, absorbing a portion of his Shinigami powers and presenting them to him like it was a real thing. It means that till this day, Kurosaki Ichigo was using only a portion of his real power. He answered in anger. How he wanted Ichigo as a test subject. Unohana cut through the deafening silence. And to think he was already so strong. She stated with a glint in her eyes, making Byakuya back away from her a bit. Captain Shiba may be alive, damn, if only I could somehow tell Matsumoto, and to think I was in Ichigo's house without seeing his father. Now that I think of it, it's quite odd that every time anyone from Soul Society was there, Ichigo's dad was nowhere to be found, and how come Kochiki-san never noticed it? She was, after all, living with them for a few months. Something's not right. Toshiro was thinking hard. So? What will we do, Yamaji? Kayaraku asked. Captain Commander clenched his cane. There is only one thing I can do. All captains, make preparations and be on high alert. There is a possibility that Kurosaki Ichigo may become our enemy. For now, do not tell this divisions as Kurosaki is highly famous person and it would only result in discord. He exclaimed, and in weaker voice he continued. Personally, I don't want to see this to happen. Kurosaki holds great potential and not just in terms of strength, and I'd be happier for him to be our ally. After Aizen, the Gotei 13 is weakened and facing an enemy of even higher caliber would just result in more deaths. Kayaraku smiled a little under his hat. Ichigo, you probably don't even know it, but during that short time you have been a Shinigami you have already changed something that stood untouched for a millennia. You are slowly changing the Gotei 13, the minds and hearts of captains and everyone around you. Even Yamaji seems a bit changed and he is the most stubborn old man I have ever known. Don't let your anger, the urge for revenge to cloud your mind. The Soul Society needs a man like you. The rest of the captains sadly nodded. Almost none of them wanted this scenario. Some for personal reasons, some for official reasons, some because of the friendship, one for scientific urges, and some were aware of the power the young substitute held. Yamamoto pulled out a small note from his robe, wiped a bead of sweat from his forehead and sighed. And now this, if this is true, we will need Kurosaki even more than ever. I'm the strongest member of the Gotei 13 and yet even I am not confident to take on that man again. There is one more thing that needs to be discussed now. He continued, drawing the attention of the captains back. It's about the conflict from 1,000 years ago and the possibility that this conflict may happen again, soon. With Ichigo. Ichigo was currently slowly getting up, feeling a little bit dizzy. Your eyes are finally open, huh? Took you long enough? At the sound of unfamiliar voice, Ichigo's head snapped up, looking at the newcomer with wide eyes. Hello, Ichigo. We finally meet. My name is Zangetsu, the real one this time. As the unknown voice trailed off, Ichigo took in the appearance of the man, standing in front of him on the edge of the skyscraper, slightly grinning. He looks so familiar yet so alien. Ichigo thought instantly. Zangetsu looked like a young man in his 20s, with short white hair, barely reaching his shoulders. He was clad in black Shinigami robes, with a white outline on it, and over that, he was wearing a red overcoat. His face was the thing that shocked Ichigo a little. It's like a combination of Tensa Zangetsu and me. With Shirasaki's crazy grin. Ah, I see that you are wondering why do I look like this. Zangetsu stated, chuckling a bit. Well, yes, and what's with the horns? Ichigo pointed to two horns protruding from above Zangetsu's temples. Knocking on them slightly, Zangetsu frowned. This is something I got from your friend, Shirasaki. This white hair is on the other hand from Iwak. He touched his face and grinned again. And this face, you must be thinking he looks like Tensa Zangetsu. Zangetsu chuckled again at Ichigo's raised eyebrow. It's because the Tensa Zangetsu you saw was the closest Iwaka got to resembling me. In your previous Bankai, Iwaka's control over your Shinigami power was on its weakest, thus his appearance was changing to look like me, your original source of Shinigami powers. Accepting the explanation, Ichigo sighed. What? So Iwaka is gone forever, huh? Ichigo stated sadly. Yes. You chose your Shinigami powers to be the core, so he's gone. I don't think I can like him, even if what he did was because he was trying to protect you. On the other hand, I'm thankful to him. He guided you, molded you into a person you are today, and I can say I'm proud to be wielded by you. You've proven yourself to him, to Shirasaki, and you've proven yourself to me. That's why I can understand what you're feeling, so I will say one thing only. Zangetsu flashed to Ichigo and lightly touched his chest, in the place where his heart was located. At Ichigo's confused face, Zangetsu smiled. Even if he's gone forever, his heart is still with you. Ichigo blinked as a lone tear was trying to escape from his eye. Thanks, Zangetsu. His Zanpakuto spirit nodded and flashed back to his previous location. Now, Ichigo, you have to know something else. Wielding me, you will finally be able to use your full power. Every part of your soul is incorporated in my blade. You'll be still able to use your hollow powers like you did before. The Quincy side of you, that you inherited from your mother, will help you control the darkness in my sword. Her holy light will forever protect you. She was quite the woman and her blood runs in your veins strongly, making it little bit easier for you. He exclaimed with a smirk. Meaning? Meaning that the Quincy in you is strong, and with your hollow instincts, you will be able to learn the basic Quincy technique, the blood, for which your mother was almost instantly. The rest of Quincy abilities, well, you are a Shinigami, so I think that you don't need them. Even if you did, it wouldn't matter as you have no talent for racial manipulation anyway. Zangetsu almost laughed at Ichigo's offended expression. After a few moments, however, Ichigo sighed. Yeah, you're probably right. But isn't blood achieved by racial manipulation? He asked. For blood, you're using the Ryuryoku of your own body, sending it into your veins or arteries, depending on what you want to use, blood vein or blood artery. You can trust my knowledge, as I got it from Iwaka. Zangetsu added, seeing the skeptic expression on Ichigo's face. Sounds doable even for me. Ichigo smirked along with his Zanpakuto. So, what do I have to do to achieve Bankai? Ichigo suddenly asked, making Zangetsu laugh. Look at that. Not even a Shuriken in his hands and he already asks about the Bankai. He chuckled more as Ichigo flushed in embarrassment. Ah, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Don't worry, Ichigo. It may seem stupid, it may seem unfair, but as I said, you have already proven yourself to me, so there is no need for you to train in order to activate a Bankai. I was watching you the whole time from the depths of your inner world, and there is nothing more I could ask you to show me. Only thing I want in return is communication, trust, and a promise to train hard. Ichigo opened his mouth for a moment, closing them slowly. No need for thank you, Ichigo. I'm not just your Zanpakuto, but I think you know it already. Zangetsu smiled lightly as Ichigo nodded. Yeah, it's not blade in me, as the blade is me. He replied quietly, widening Zangetsu's smile with his words. Exactly. Zangetsu winked at him, and in a burst of Ryatsu, he revealed a sword behind him, burning with black flames. Is that? Ichigo asked, amazed. So powerful. He thought. Yes, take it, Ichigo. Take it and be the one you strive to be the protector. Zangetsu yelled and sidestepped Ichigo, who flashed to the sword. As they were engulfed in an explosion of Ryatsu and Ichigo was slowly disappearing from his inner world, he heard Zangetsu's words. Oh, and one more thing, Ichigo. Do me a favor and find an Asachi, as my blade can be broken while you're not using an actual sword, but a one created by instant racial manipulation, done by Awoke. Eh? Ichigo recoiled and widened his eyes. I'm not using a real sword? With Ichigo, real world. Shouldn't he be awake by now? Ryuken asked Urahara, while Ishin kneeled next to unconscious Ichigo. poking him in the head with his finger. His Zanpakuto probably wanted to talk to Urahara widened his eyes, along with Isshin and Ryuken, when a burst of Ryatsu engulfed Ichigo and pressed on them heavily. They didn't joke about it. He really is a Ryatsu monster. Ryuken thought in alarm as his breathing was getting heavy. Straining their muscles, the trio jumped away from Ichigo. So Zangetsu finally let him take the blade. Urahara yelled to Isshin as the Ryatsu outburst was accompanied by a loud noise. To think that this is his Ryatsu only in Shurkai, damn, I fathered one crazy kid. Isshin replied rather satisfied with himself, earning a dirty look from Ryuken. After a few more moments, the Ryatsu was getting even stronger, giving them no other option but to kneel. If this won't stop, he will suffocate us with Ryatsu alone. Ryuken yelled, grimacing at Isshin, who only shrugged nonchalantly. When the pressure was slowly becoming unbearable, it suddenly vanished, leaving the trio floored. What the? Isshin asked as they noticed that Ichigo started to move. With a hand on his head, Ichigo sighed. Well, that was interesting. He commented and raised his head to see his father and the others in small distance. And, something wrong? Ichigo asked them confused. Kurosaki, are you okay? Ryuken asked tentatively. Ichigo flexed his hands and slowly got up. Yeah, sure, I feel great, why? It's just that we cannot feel any Ryatsu from you. Isshin replied with a frown. Huh? Ichigo was taken aback by that statement. I think I know what happened. Urahara jumped into conversation. Since Kurosaki-san is a perfect, natural hybrid entity that incorporates all of the spiritual powers inside of him, he simply reached a whole new level of existence. He became a true transcendental, living in a plane of existence higher than we are. Same thing happened with Aizen, remember? But the Hogyoku made him artificial and a lot weaker form of a transcendental being, unlike Kurosaki-san. He explained and watched as lightbulbs lightened up above their heads. Cool. Ichigo remarked with a grin. So, let us see the sword. Isshin said excited. Chuckling slightly, Ichigo pulled out Zangetsu from his back and widened his eyes. Once again, the sword changed his form. It was now a full sword, with an ornamented hilt, with a kanji for darkness engraved on it. The blade was little bit longer and thinner than before, without curves. One thing that surprised Ichigo was that the blade changed its color. Now, it was pure and bright white, mildly surrounded with black flames. Nius 1, son. Isshin clapped Ichigo on his shoulders, but gulped when Ichigo turned to him. Dad. I'm still mad at you. I get why you didn't tell me about my mom and about the rest, but... He grinned deviously. I think that you should run. He finished and kicked him in the guts, sending him flying. Now, let's have some fun. Ichigo flashed to where his father landed with his sword raised high. Oh boy. Urahara gulped and pitted his friend. He knew firsthand how frightening Ichigo could be when angry. 15 minutes later. I yield. I yield. Isshin screamed as his hand were pressed against his back, courtesy of Ichigo, sitting on him and holding Zangetsu close to his crotch. Ichigo grinned and released his father. Damn, he really learns fast. Even with my own Shurkai I was getting overwhelmed, and I have a lot more experience than him, and he's not even winded. Isshin Noizumi rubbed his sore hands, sweating profusely. Urahara, who was watching the whole fight, was busy making calculations in his mind, while Ryuken was sitting on the floor with uninterested look on his face. Next time, use your own chamber for a brawl. He stated and slowly stood up. Sorry about that. Ichigo apologized with nervous smile. Ryuken only waved his hand. It's okay this time. After all, I got to see Isshin getting his ass handed to him. Isshin looked at him in horror as Ryuken corrected his glasses with an amused expression and a small smirk. What now, Kurosaki-san? Urahara asked from the back. Ichigo looked at his Zanpakuto and sighed. I don't know. It's a little bit too much for me to handle just like that. I can't forgive the Soul King, but I need to know if he did it alone, or if the rest of the Gotii 13 knew about it. Surely they must have asked themselves why he would give that kind of order. I don't want to jump to conclusions and attack my friends for something they didn't even know about. That's the Gotii 13 style, the Central 40 CXS style, not mine. And I will not help Ewok either. He sounds like someone who should visit a doctor, not someone who's suited to be a king, but the ancient story hit me. I can understand his pain as what that man did to him was unforgivable, but even if I sympathized with him, he is someone who wants Ewok to win. I think need more time to process this. He replied, still looking at his sword, missing the proud looks on Ishin's and Urahara's faces. Ichigo, ask them to leave you in here alone for a while. There is something I want to teach you. Zangetsu called out to him. Ichigo raised his head and looked at Ryukin. I apologize for this, Ryukin-san, but do you think you could let me stay here for a moment, alone? Zangetsu says he wants to teach me something. The trio raised their eyebrows and Ryukin sighed. Fine, but don't destroy anything, he said, and after they grabbed their things, they left the chamber, leaving Ichigo alone. Okay, we're alone. What is it, Zangetsu? With an amused chuckle, Zangetsu materialized and sent a wink at him. Ichigo, enter your Bankai. Ichigo raised his eyebrows but did as told. He focused on his spiritual energy and yelled. Bankai. It was only thanks to the special material the walls were made from that the chamber didn't explode from all of the Ryatsu that exploded from Ichigo. It was still a Ryatsu that couldn't be felt by ordinary beings, but it was still a Ryatsu. And one person could feel it. Ichigo gasped as he felt the increase in his Ryatsu levels. Whoa! He gasped the second time when he looked at his blade. His Bankai didn't quite change its form, unlike his Shurkai. It was still a small blade, in appearance similar to a basic katana, but the rest was changed. Like the Shurkai, the blade was now completely white, surrounded by black flames, and the hilt changed. There was no kanji for darkness on it, instead there was a kanji for holy light engraved on it, slightly shining. Ah yeah, that's even cooler than the Shurkai. Ichigo grinned and lightly slashed at the air. His eyes almost bulged out when the pure pressure from his swing stretched the walls of the chamber to their limits, creating small cracks in it. You gotta be kidding me. Ichigo gasped and rather carefully let his blade to hang loosely at his side. As you can see, your destructive potential in Bankai is quite amazing, so you should restrain from using your full power too much. Like Ewok told you. In the past you used to depend on your Bankai too much, when in reality, it should be your last ace. Zangetsu stated. No shit, if I used this against Grimmjow for example, I would slaughter him. Ichigo shook his head and then he widened his eyes. Wow, wait a fucking minute, why are you still here, Zangetsu? I thought my Bankai is Tensa Zangetsu? Zangetsu smirked. Yes, my Bankai is Tensa Zangetsu, but there are no two forms of Zanpakuto spirit, Ichigo. No Shinigami has it. You were different only because of Ewok, as his appearance showed the level of control he had. Oh, right. Ichigo mumbled, slightly surprised. Okay, don't stay too long in Bankai as you need to slowly get used to this much Ryatsu. For now, I will teach you one new ability of my blade. You can use those from Shurkai even in Bankai, don't forget. Now, for the new ability. It's called Hijiraru no Kusari, the Chain of Holy Light. This ability is something that uses your Quincy part. As the name suggests, it creates a chain made from holy light that can be used as a whip, or you can bind your enemy with it. Concentrate and usher the words. With an excited expression, Ichigo held out his sword. Hijiraru no Kusari. He yelled, and to his surprise a thick chain emerged from his blade and fell on the floor. Is this supposed to happen? He asked his Zanpakuto dumbly. You're supposed to grab the chain with your other hand. Don't you think that it would be impractical if the chain was still connected with the blade? Zangetsu replied with a facepalm. Oh. I see. Ichigo mumbled and grabbed the chain. It's light. I was expecting it to be heavier. It's because you need to be able to use it effortlessly. Now, it would be pretty weird if it was only a simple chain, so it has special properties. If you confine a hollow with it, the holy light of the chain will immediately start to purify the hollow, disintegrating it slowly, depending on the strength of the hollow, and before you ask, since it is an ability of a Zanpakuto, your holy light won't completely destroy the hollow as Quincy usually do. It will purify him. Zangetsu explained Ichigo, who was looking at it in awe. Sweet. It also has a second ability. If you will it, you can send a holy wave through the chain, which has the similar effect as what in human world is called an electricity. As your black flames burns the evil with the pain of their darkness, the holy light electrifies it with its righteousness. Ichigo looked over the chain and whipped it casually, sending his Ryuryoku through it, creating small sparks at its end. So, the darkness and the holy light. Quite the opposites, huh? Ichigo wondered. Yes, like a yin and a yang, your abilities are like two sides of a coin. The darkness of your Shinigami side and the light of your Quincy side, the light of your mother. Zangetsu smiled when Ichigo closed his eyes and whispered. Thank you, Mum. Chapter 13, Quincy Archer is your friend, Red Inferno vs. Holy Darkness. Ichigo marveled at his new Bankai for a while longer, before sealing the Zanpakuto back to its original cleaver-like state. His Quincy spirit had once called it an incomplete Shurikai. Looking around, consciously overlooking some cracks which had appeared in the walls as a result of swinging his Bankai blade too much, I hope Ryukin-san won't notice, he put his sword on his back and emerged from the hidden chamber. In surprise, he blinked at the darkness. It was still late at night. It puzzled him. He had a feeling that the talk with the trio had taken longer. Seemingly, he was wrong. Closing the doors behind him, he almost jumped at the sudden loud voice. Kurosaki? What are you doing here? Ichigo turned around, sweating nervously. Oh, Yuryu, didn't think I'd come across you tonight. The Quincy Archer only frowned for a while, but then widened his eyes. Wait a minute, are you really Kurosaki? He slowly took a defensive stance, startling Ichigo. Of course I am. Who else would I be? What's wrong? Ichigo asked. Yuryu eyed him suspiciously, but didn't relinquish the bow he formed a moment ago. If you're really Kurosaki, why do I feel no Ryatsu coming from you? The confusion left Ichigo, all was clear. He almost wanted to facepalm. Right. Sorry about that, but from today, nobody can feel my Ryatsu. Looking doubtfully at him, Yuryu motioned him to continue. Well, this will probably surprise you and it's going to be a long story, so let's walk. Ichigo proposed, casually walking away. With a small sigh, Yuryu followed him. So? Ichigo glanced at him. Well, I don't want everyone to know my secrets. But if I can't trust Yuryu, I can't trust anybody. I'll be blunt, Yuryu. I was talking with your father, my father and Urahara in that chamber. Yuryu stopped and stared at him. My father? Ichigo nodded and waited patiently until his friend resumed following him. It's quite simple. I think that by now you know that my dad is a Shinigami and that's why I'm a one too. Yuryu nodded. I had my suspicions. Funny you didn't share them with me. Ichigo pouted at Yuryu, who only pushed his glasses up with his index finger in response. Well, I thought that you'd be smart enough to figure it out yourself. Ichigo only shook his head. Freaking no at all. Right, but that's not all. Turns out that my mother was not normal either, she was a Quincy, Yuryu. Ichigo counted a few seconds, before the reveal hit the Quincy walking next to him. It took him 5 seconds, but when it did hit him, Yuryu slowly turned to him, eyes bulging out. Say what? If it wasn't a serious conversation, Ichigo might have even laughed at his expression. But he didn't. Instead, he took a deep breath and without further ado, explained what he had learned from his father, from Yuryu's father and from Urahara. After he finished, he gauged Yuryu's expression. The Quincy seemed to be digesting the information far too well, too calmly. Yuryu, you alright? He asked carefully. His friend nodded curtly. Yes. I think, it's just weird. We actually could have been something like brothers when we were younger if your Quincy side awoke first. And I didn't know that your mother died the same day mine fell into a coma. I mean, I knew that she died, but I didn't know that their deaths were connected. Ichigo frowned at him. It was evident to Ichigo that Yuryu was a little shaken as he never spoke so many words at length before. He must have been lonely as a kid. We both lost our mums, but I had Yuzu and Karen. And most of the time Dad was with us. But he didn't have any sibling and his father was distant. The only one he had was his grandfather. But even he died soon after that. Ichigo wiped the sad expression off his face and glanced at Yuryu. Grabbing his shoulder and lightly shaking him, Ichigo grinned at him. Don't sweat it that much, we're friends now and that's what matters, right? And you can't even protest that a Shinigami can't be your friend, since I'm technically a part Quincy. Yuryu snorted and shook his head. I guess I can't, so I can't feel your Ryatsu because you're a higher being? He snorted again. Well, if you don't mind, you can call me a god, since I'm that perfect. Ichigo grinned, puffing his chest outwards. Right. Yuryu replied, slightly annoyed and sweat dropping a little at his friend's nonchalance. Sometimes Ichigo was incredibly strange. It baffled him. Nonetheless, the two walked a while longer in comfortable silence, taking care to not wander far from Urahara's shop, before Yuryu stopped and turned to Ichigo with serious expression. What are you going to do about the Soul King and Soul Society? Don't you think that they may have heard about it from that captain that found you in Hueco Mundo along with Urahara-san and Yoruchi-san? What if they'll see you as a threat now, thinking that you may turn on them? Ichigo sighed grimly. I thought about that possibility, but frankly, I don't trust the Soul King. There are only a few people in Soul Society, in Gotei 13 who, at least I hope, I can fully trust. They won't go against orders, but I think that they would be able to persuade the old man to not attack and kill me on the spot at the very least. I don't want to fight them. But if I have to, I'll defend myself and my friends with everything I have. His response earned a ghostly smile from Yuryu's lips. That's what I expected, but you still didn't say what you'll do about the Soul King. Frowning deeply, Ichigo turned away. I didn't say anything, because I don't know myself. Dad wants me to live with it. It's easier to do it when I think about it. That there's a huge chance that even if the Shinigami came to rescue my mother and me, they would have been too late. Thinking like that, I could probably find a way how to live with it, but even if I could, I really want to talk to Soul King, face to face. It'll be that moment that will decide my future actions. He answered truthfully, and there was a moment of silence. Then, Yuryu smirked uncharacteristically at him. Seems like you matured a bit, Kurosaki. In the past, you'd stormed the Soul Society, getting to Soul King immediately after learning the truth. Ichigo looked at him offended. Would not. Seeing the amused look in Yuryu's eyes, he sighed. Fine, I probably would. Nodding at him with satisfied smirk, Yuryu was about to leave, when Ichigo's voice stopped him. However, saying that, I can't forgive Iwak. Unlike Soul King, his actions directly affected my mom's death. If he didn't take away her powers, she would have defeated the Grand Fisher easily, even without the support of Shinigami. What about you? I know that you have somewhat forgiven the Shinigami for the death of your grandfather, but what about Iwak? Turning slowly to face his friend again, Yuryu clenched his fists. I'd really like to tell you that it's none of your business, but you trusted me enough and told me about your mother, so I'll answer. Taking a moment to collect his thoughts, Yuryu shoved his glasses up against his face roughly and began. There isn't much to tell. Yes, I forgave the Shinigami. My grandfather was already old and frail, and even if the Shinigami saved him, I don't think he would be alive at this point. He was constantly ill. And I'm not naive enough to delude myself into thinking that he would have lived more than 2 years after the incident. Of course, for the younger me it would change many things, but I'm older and wiser now. His last wish was for Shinigami and Quincy to cooperate, and that's what I'm going to do, so I hold no grudge against Shinigami, not counting that clown-like captain. Concerning Iwak, he may be the king of Quincy, our original predecessor, but his way of thinking is 1,000 years old. When the time comes and he'll be back, I will side with you, Kurosaki. Not Soul Society or the Shinigami, but you. Whatever your decision is, I'll stick with you, as you are the closest thing to family I currently have, besides my father. Our fates are connected by our source of power, our mothers and our future that could convince the Soul Society that not every Quincy is deranged and a threat. And before either could speak, or Yurio could even acknowledge the surprised expression on Ichigo's face, Yuria used her Renkyaku and flashed away. A response was unnecessary. Ichigo stared at the empty space stunned for a while before finally swallowing and chuckling. Yuryu, you bastard, and you told me that I matured. Next to you I'm still a hormonal teenager. He mumbled with a smile and turned to the direction of Urahara's shop. And that's it, Yoruchi. Urahara finished with a busted lip. When he returned from the conversation Ishin and Ryukin had with Ichigo, Yoruchi jumped at him, punching him in the face and demanding an explanation for keeping secrets from her. Said dark-skinned Shinigami was still glaring daggers at the shopkeeper, refusing to forgive him just yet. I never would have thought that you'd keep so many secrets even from me, Kisuke. We were childhood friends for God's sake. Urahara only grabbed his hat that was previously knocked from his head, and shook his head. I never thought I'd do that either, Yoruchi. But Ishin asked me to keep my mouth shut, and it was the least I could do. You know yourself from your time in 2nd Division that some secrets must be kept even from your closest ones. Growling quietly, Yoruchi turned away. Fine, but you still could have told me about that Quincy legend. I read about Iwak in Siratii Library when I was bored, but I never knew how he looked. I could have told Ichigo about his Quincy side when he was training for his Bankai with me. Urahara looked at her sternly. And what would that do, Yoruchi? Would that help him? Don't you think it would only shatter his resolve, his concentration? He wouldn't have been able to save Kuchiki-san, he wouldn't have been able to do his Vizard training, everything could have, no, everything would have turned out worse. A lot worse than it did. After so many months, he finally has a little bit of peace, Yoruchi. Knowing the truth sooner would have only harmed him. And I was going to tell you about the legend soon enough. He stated and watched her scrunching her nose. She glared at him for a few more moments, before succumbing to the truth. Yeah. I guess you're right, but I still don't like it. And if I knew about that legend, I wouldn't have just lazed around for a century. Instead, I would have trained for long hours in order to ensure victory. Commander is too old and I don't think he could survive another confrontation with Iwak. Soul Society would not survive either. Urahara sighed and cracked his neck. Maybe you will and maybe you won't trust me on this, but I think that Captain Commander is still strong enough. Not to mention that Kurosaki-san is, at his current level, even stronger than him now, most likely. Yoruchi's glare returned, sending shivers down Urahara's spine. Kisuke. He's only a boy goddammit and not a soldier of Gotii 13. She added as an afterthought, should be able to solve our own problems. What happened with Aizen? Are we really so weak that we need to rely on strength of one boy, who still has his own life here? Despite the shiver, Urahara managed to smirk. Well, I can understand your frustration, Yoruchi. You want to protect the one he was interrupted by new voice from behind the doors. Oi, Urahara-san, I'm here. Ichigo yelled when he couldn't find the shopkeeper. He probably saved Urahara's life, because a mildly blushing Yoruchi just wanted to activate her Shunko and beat the crap out of him, before he could finish that sentence. Ah, Kurosaki-san, in here. Urahara quickly called out to him, gulping uncomfortably as Yoruchi settled on smothering him with increasingly intense waves of Ryatsu. Yo, what are you? Ichigo opened the doors and trailed off when he found a blushing Yoruchi trying to kill Urahara with her eyes. Should I come back later? Ichigo asked sheepishly. No, your timing is perfect. I was just explaining to Yoruchi that she won't be able to sense your Ryatsu anymore. Urahara replied quickly before his predicament could take a turn for the worse. Ichigo, oblivious, replied with a simple, oh, okay. So, what do you want to do, Ichigo? Yoruchi asked, finally turning her head away from Urahara. I'll go to Soul Society. I have some questions and it'd be best if I showed that for now, I still consider them my allies. He answered resolutely. For now? Yoruchi thought worriedly. Okay, I'll go with you. She said it with a finality in which was implied that there would be no arguing with her. She was going. So Ichigo only nodded with a small smile. Before you do, Kurosaki-san, there is something I want to try. Let's go to the training ground. Urahara spoke and motioned them to go down. After they arrived, he put Ichigo to the center of the huge room and told him to stay still. Okay, Urahara-san, tell me what is it that you want to do? Ichigo asked suspiciously. Without missing a beat, Urahara retorted. I want you to try and counter my Shirkai ability with your hands only. What? Yoruchi asked angrily. Ichigo blinked at the scientist, waiting for more of an elaboration. It's quite simple, actually. You are now a perfect hybrid. A transcendental being. I think that it would be best if we tried to figure out if you can still be harmed by simple attacks. It's better to try this now, when there's no actual danger, rather than finding out in a battle. Urahara clarified. Really? Ichigo asked him. Yes, it's possible that now that you are a higher dimensional being, attacks of a normal person are ineffective. Urahara answered. Ichigo shook his head. That's not what I meant. I'm asking if that's the real reason. Isn't it because you want to determine if there's a way of stopping me if I decide to go against Soul Society? Yoruchi's head snapped to Urahara with wide eyes. Kisuke, you better not lie, but Ichigo, that was quite perceptive of you. With an undetectable smile, Urahara replied. Yes, that too. Ichigo recoiled, making Urahara chuckle a bit. Don't be surprised by my honest reply, Kurosaki-san. I promised you that I'd lie to you no more. Ichigo chuckled back, relaxing. I guess. But I honestly thought you were only saying it. In response, Urahara took out his Zanpakuto and an amused expression settled on his face. You'll see that I'm a man of many surprises, Kurosaki-san. Awaken, Benihime. Ichigo only sweat dropped at him. Like I didn't know that already. Ichigo murmured quietly. Okay, Kurosaki-san. I'll try the ability that's used only as an attack. For now, I'll go with the third of its maximum power for starter. Urahara announced and focused his Ryatsu. Ichigo nodded nervously. Nake, Benihime. Urahara exclaimed and sent a bright red energy blast at Ichigo, who waited until last second and slapped the attack away, sending it crashing into the nearby boulders. You okay, Ichigo? Yoruchi yelled at him. Yeah, I didn't even feel it. Ichigo replied with amazed expression. Wow, I didn't think I'd get this strong. Ichigo wondered. Half of the maximum power, Kurosaki-san. Urahara announced. Nake, Benihime. A slightly bigger blast was sent at Ichigo, who again slapped the attack away. Ichigo grinned at Urahara, who had only slightly surprised look. Well then, how interesting. Maximum power, Kurosaki-san, get ready. Urahara announced for the third time and deeply focused on his Ryuryoku. A small bead of sweat glistened on Yoruchi's forehead. Kisuke, you've surpassed me in Ryatsu again, you weasel. Yoruchi pouted childishly. Nake, Benihime. Urahara shouted and sent a powerful attack at Ichigo, who widened his eyes. This is on another level from the previous, it's almost comparable to my Shirkai Getsuga after I merged with Shirasaki. Urahara-san, you're a monster yourself. Ichigo thought to himself, stupefied for a moment before regaining his composure. Quickly shaking his head, Ichigo prepared to block the strike. When it collided with his hand, it was a struggle not to be thrown back by its force. It was with slight difficulty that he managed to redirect the blast elsewhere. When smoke from the explosion cleared, Ichigo emerged from it with raised eyebrows. So, how was it, Kurosaki-san? Urahara asked as soon as he saw him. You're a beast, Urahara-san. Ichigo replied and showed him his still smoking hands. Tiny scratches speckled his forearms. Urahara choked a little at that sight. You're saying I am a beast? That was my most powerful attack in Shirkai and it barely grazed you, Kurosaki-san. He managed to set through coughs, while Yoruchi was staring at Ichigo in shock. Damn! She thought in amazement. It was still only your Shirkai, Urahara-san. I think that if you used your Bankai, you could deal a good injury. Besides, something tells me that Iwak is stronger than you, so I need to be ready. Ichigo retorted. Urahara waved his hand. But there you're wrong. My Bankai is unique and believe me when I'll tell you that it would most likely wouldn't work on you. He stated, smiling mysteriously. Well, on the other hand, you still haven't used your blood, so I think that you'll be fine, Kurosaki-san. He added after a moment of silence. Yeah, I got to learn how to use it as soon as I can. As my Zanpakuta said to me, I'm the type that rushes into dangerous situations without thinking. More defensive power is always welcomed. Ichigo muttered begrudgingly. That's putting it lightly. Yoruchi snorted sardonically, making Ichigo look at her annoyed. What? It's true. She blurted, effectively shutting him up. So? I should open the Senkaman? Urahara glanced at them amusedly. With a defeated expression, Ichigo nodded, but before he opened the gate, Urahara caught himself and smiled apologetically. One more moment, Kurosaki-san. I almost forgot that I wanted to try one more thing. And that would be... Ichigo inquired with a sigh. Kido. Urahara replied shortly and waited until Ichigo begrudgingly walked a small distance away. Tessai appeared from apparently nowhere. Boss. He nodded to Urahara, who turned to Ichigo. Kurosaki-san, this time there is 50-50 chance that either you deflect the Kido, or you'll be seriously harmed, so I called Tessai. Don't worry, even if you're injured, he'll fix you up quickly. Urahara called out to a grimacing Ichigo. Gee, thanks for reassurance. Urahara only smirked and focused his Ryatsu. I'll try first without chanting. Heido number 90, Kurohitsuji. He exclaimed, and in a matter of a second, black box surrounded Ichigo, hiding him from the sight. When it dawned on Yoruchi what Kido was Urahara using, she was a little too late. Still, she flashed over to him and punched him directly into jaw, sending him flying into Tessai. Are you out of your mind, Kisuke? That Kido could kill him. She yelled furiously. With slightly bleeding mouth, Urahara slowly got up, keeping his hands in front of him, trying to cover himself from possible onslaught. Yoruchi-san, you know that I wouldn't do it if I wasn't convinced about the results. He grunted in pain, massaging his jaw. You just said it was 50-50 chance, you idiot. Rolling his eyes, Urahara grabbed his hat. Oh come on, like you don't know me. I was just trying to scare him. If that's true, why is Tessai here? She pointed at the Kido master in the back, still looking suspiciously at the shopkeeper. This time Urahara only gaped like a fish, trying to come up with something to say in his defense. Kisuke. Yoruchi growled and slowly walked to him, when the black box of Ryatsu behind them cracked and after that shattered, revealing unharmed Ichigo with a thoughtful expression. That was weird. He noted quietly and looked up to see stunned Yoruchi with her raised fist at Urahara, who was covering behind her, looking satisfied. Did I miss something? Ichigo raised his eyebrow, waiting for an explanation. Urahara instantly jumped away from Yoruchi, grinning widely. See? He's just fine, just like I thought he would be. Yoruchi looked like she wanted to say something, but she settled for a sigh. Now, Kurosaki-san, I see that you are completely unharmed, so we can try the same thing with full incantation. What do you say? Urahara asked jovially. You're going to dash. Sure. Ichigo's response cut off Yoruchi's angry snare, making her look at the substitute like he had two heads. Are you insane? It's Heido number 90 for a reason. You saw how Kamamura looked after Aizen used it on him without even using incantation. She snapped at him, trying to make him see reason. He only squeezed her shoulder with a small grin. I'm happy that you're worried about me, but I agree with what Urahara-san said at the beginning. It's best to be sure about this sooner than too late. Yoruchi turned away, feeling blood rush to her cheeks and weakly nodded. When he got into position, Urahara started to build up his Ryatsu again. Seeping crest of turbidity. Arrogant vessel of lunacy. Boil fort and deny. Grow numb and flicker. Disrupt sleep. Crawling queen of iron. Eternally self-destructing doll of mud. Unite. Repulse. Fill with soil and know your own powerlessness. Heido number 90, Kurohitsuji. Urahara chanted and a black box of Ryatsu, almost twice the size of the previous one appeared, slowly surrounding Ichigo. Yoruchi bit her lip in nervousness and waited. After few seconds, the box shattered. Once again, Ichigo had successfully smashed the Heido with his hands. The goddess of flash breathed heavily and flashed to Ichigo, smiling a little. She didn't notice Urahara's bewildered look as he glanced at equally surprised Tessai. I'm glad that you're okay, but I still think it was pointlessly risky idea. Yoruchi said and whacked Ichigo's head. Before he could retort, Urahara called out to him. Well, Kurosaki-san, I have to admit, I'm at loss of words. It seems that Kido, that are purely Shinigami art, are completely useless against you. However, a Zanpakuto's special abilities can affect you, if enough power is used. Odd. Urahara stated while walking towards the duo. Ichigo looked at him puzzled. Isn't that kind of illogical? I mean, both things use your Ryuryoku. Urahara slowly shook his head. Well, that is debatable. Kido uses only your Ryuryoku, while special abilities of your blade uses your own Ryuryoku together with the Ryuryoku of your Zanpakuto. On the other hand, a Zanpakuto spirit is born from your soul and has similar energy. Well, it definitely is interesting. I'll look into it. He explained, deep in thoughts. But, for now, I'll open the Senkamen for you. Ichigo turned around, still confused, and tried to grasp what was told to him. His mood was lifted when a small black cat jumped at his shoulders. What? Too lazy to run on your own feet? He asked with a smirk. The cat only licked his neck, making him jump in surprise, and grinned at him. Maybe I like riding you. Yoruchi said innocently and watched as the orange-haired Shinigami became beet red. Pervert. She added and bursted in cat-like laugh when smoke bursted from Ichigo's ears. Take care, Kurosaki-san. Urahara waved at him, barely containing his own laughter, and closed the Senkamen after them. After that, he chuckled for a while, tears streaming down his face before coming to his senses. Now then, let's run some tests. During the journey through the Senkamen, Ichigo kept blushing a little, still trying to shake the picture of Yoruchi riding him, but to no avail. The devilish cat even kept licking his neck from time to time, always disrupting his concentration. When he emerged in Soul Society, he couldn't keep quiet anymore. Damn it, Yoruchi-san! What are you doing? He yelled at her and scratched his neck, her tongue was tickling him. Oh come on, it's not like I'm biting you. She protested in an exaggerated voice. Seeing that he was fighting a losing battle, he settled for a long and deep sigh. So, where to now? Yoruchi asked. Ichigo looked around, thinking about it. Well, it seems like even the Soul Society's alarms can't pick on my Ryatsu, so they don't know that I'm here yet. I want to visit Vizards. It's been almost a week since my last visit. Yoruchi changed her position from his left shoulder to his right, wrapping her tail around the cloth that kept Zangetsu at his back. Hate to break it to you, Ichigo, but don't you think that they'll spot you right away? Wouldn't it be better to go straight to the first division so that you could explain the situation? She questioned his course of action. Ichigo only snorted. Yeah, because I'm so into rules or into what should be done. They can wait a few more minutes. If they can't, it just shows the level of trust they have in me. He stated and started to slowly walk towards the back of the 4th division, where Vizards should have been. Strangely, the first time he encountered someone through the course of his journey was when he entered the 4th Division main building. Strolling through the hall, he noticed Lieutenant Isane furiously digging through a pile of paperwork. "Hello, Isane-san, are the wizards still around? Are you okay?" he asked when at the noise of his voice she jumped in air, scattering the papers all around her. "Kuku Kurosaki-san? Oh God, you scared me. I haven't noticed you." She yelped and blushed in embarrassment. "Ah, sorry about that, I forgot to alert you with my Ryatsu." He scratched his head nervously. Looking around to see paperwork spread on the ground, he knelt and started to gather the papers. "Here, sorry about scaring you." He handed her the files, which she shyly took, staring at the floor. "The wizards are still in the back of the barracks," she said quietly and put her papers back on the table. When Ichigo turned to leave, she stopped him with a question. Kurosaki-san. Captain Unohana mentioned that you were able to learn the basics of healing." She started and Ichigo nodded. "Yeah, but truly only basics, it's really hard to be able to concentrate like you do," he replied, praising her a little. She offered him a small smile. "Thank you. It's just that Captain told me that if you stopped by and wanted to learn more while she isn't available, that I should help you to try and improve yourself, so, when you want to learn more, I'm here most of the time." She mumbled and turned away, beet red. Oh okay. When I'll have the time I'll stop by." Surprised Ichigo managed to say, when an impatient Yoruchi bit him lightly on the neck, reminding him to go. "Oh, right, I have to go. See you later, Isane-san." He nodded shortly to her and hurried away. She weakly waved to him. "I have to tell Captain that I can't wear it all the time, it's too much." Isane thought with flushed cheeks and reached to her crotch to adjust a small and lightly vibrating accessory. "Oi, Baldy, are you really sure that you want to do it?" Hiyori asked Shinji with a deep frown on her face. Shinji, relaxing comfortably on the armchair, sprawled across it, yawned and nodded. "Yeah, sure. I have too much free time either way, so I'll at least have something to do. Not to mention that Aizen screwed up my old division and I feel a tiny speck of responsibility if oh that." Not satisfied with the answer, Hiyori turned to Kensei and Mashiro. The short-haired wizard cracked his knuckles while Mashiro babbled, testing his patience. "What about you two? You don't have any responsibility towards this stinking place?" Hiyori exclaimed heatedly. Kensei only looked at her tiredly. "Look, Hiyori, we already decided, your little fit won't change anything. Yes, I don't like the Central 46 or most of the Gotei 13, but Ichigo went out of his way and to have us unbanished. I intend to use the opportunity. I can finally train like I used to. Mashiro will help Kensei, because he can't live without me." Mashiro squealed and jumped around Kensei, whose mouth twitched. "I can live without you, idiot." "Ah, don't be shy, Kensei-chan." A small tick mark appeared on Hiyori's head as the dynamic duo proceeded to ignore her. Before she could snap at them, Ichigo opened the doors, startling them greatly and making Hiyori yelp in surprise. "Yo! How you're holding up?" Ichigo greeted them and sweat dropped a little when he noticed their positions. Hiyori was folded on the ground, with her crotch almost at her face, while Shinji had his head on the floor, with the rest of his body still on the armchair. Kensei was holding Mashiro, who jumped at him in surprise. Love was still reading his manga, ignoring the whole situation. Rose was entangled in his lasso and Hachi was trying to get him out of it. Lastly, Lisa was staring at Ichigo with a dangerous glint in her eyes. Sorry that I surprised you?" Ichigo looked at them apologetically. "Baldy. What the heck? Don't sneak up on me like that, I might kill you in reflex." Hiyori yelled after she managed to get up. She glared at Ichigo, red in face from embarrassment. "Ichigo, you almost gave me a heart attack, don't tell me, did you finally learn how to mask your Ryatsu?" Shinji looked at him with too much surprise on his face for Ichigo's taste. "Ha, very funny," he retorted with an offended expression. "Not funny, but interesting. So you can finally use your new skill for sneaking up on innocent victims of your deeply hidden fetishes or simply catch nude girls off guard, nice." Lisa commented and gave him a thumbs up. "I don't have hidden fetishes. Ichigo yelled, blushing slightly. Oh, but you didn't deny the nude girl's part. Lisa shot back with a perverted grin. Wah dash. She looked at him smugly when he couldn't reply at first, but it soon changed to a surprised expression when he managed to choke out. I get enough nude girls as it is. He mumbled when he remembered Yoruchi, Kukaku, and Harabel. The last one he hadn't seen nude. But it was close enough to that. That statement seemed to shock Lisa enough to shut her up, so he turned to Shinji. No, I didn't learn how to mask my Ryatsu, it's simply because my Ryatsu cannot be sensed anymore. Receiving a bunch of raised eyebrows, he shortly explained his situation. Starting now, I don't think anything about you will surprise me anymore. Shinji sighed and shook his head. Yeah? You understood what's wrong with Berry-tan, Shinji-chan? Mashiro tilted her head and looked at the unofficial leader of Vizards in confusion. We all understood, idiot. Simply said, he's now too strong. Kensei stated. Boo, but Berry-tan can't be stronger than my Kensei. She pouted at him and started to roll on the ground like angry child. You never stop, do you, Ichigo-san? Rose smiled at him. Well, maybe you'll have less troubles with Kido now that you have different kind of Ryuryoku. Hachi stated. Hiyori only sat opposite to him and quietly fumed. Damn Baldy, cheater, not fair. She mumbled under her nose. Well, my idea still stands in that case. Lisa commented after she finally got over her surprise at Ichigo's previous response to her. Said substitute only shook his head exasperatedly. You're still going with that. Well, it is interesting, so, what are you going to do about the Soul King? Love asked him suddenly, making Ichigo almost spit at him from surprise. Wah dash. What about Soul King? Shinji only looked at him sardonically. Well, captains almost went apeshit when they heard about it from Suifeng or what's her name. Don't worry, they haven't told anyone else. We only know it, cause me, Kensei and Mashiro are staying in Soul Society and taking the free captain positions. Well, Mashiro will be some sort of lieutenant. He explained. Mashiro will be a super lieutenant. Mashiro exclaimed loudly, earning herself a whack on head, courtesy of Kensei. Like hell you will. Finally catching up with the conversation, Ichigo widened his eyes. You're going to take back your old positions? That's great, congrats. He congratulated them. Yeah, so? Whatcha gonna do? Shinji asked, ignoring Kensei and Mashiro. Scratching his head, Ichigo turned away. For starters, I'm going to find out if the Gotei 13 knew about my mom, that she was a Quincy and that dad was their former captain or not. That they just took it like an ordinary order. He stated calmly. When he heard no response, he turned back to see Vizards looking at him puzzled. What? Kensei grimaced at him. What difference does it make? Ichigo smiled a little. It's different to me. I can get over it if they just followed orders or if they were suspicious about it. It would mean I can't hold it against them. I know that they couldn't just go against the orders of the Soul King. However, if they knew who my mother and dad were, it would mean that they lied to me for these past months, playing allies with me. He trailed off and looked outside the window. I know that it probably makes no sense at all, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. I don't want to fight people that I consider friends, and fighting Gotei 13 would only bring problems, and no matter who would win, there would be causalities, and since all of us know what's coming, it would be stupid. I may hate Gotei 13 for what they did, but without them, the balance of souls would collapse. My decision could potentially bring danger to many people. I don't know. I want to talk to Soul King face to face too. Shinji sharply cut him off. Are you crazy? You can't just go to him. I know, but I have the feeling that he'll want to talk to me himself. I just need to wait. Ichigo replied calmly. The Vizards only sighed and quickly gave up from telling him otherwise. There was no point, they knew at least that much. Well, it was nice seeing you guys, but I think I should go to the First Division to talk to the old man and prevent an imminent conflict. Ichigo stated, sauntering away just as Love grabbed his shoulder. Wait. Shinji, Kensei and Mashiro will be appointed in half an hour when the next captain's meeting should be. You can wait that much, he said, glancing at the rest. Well, I have no problem with Baldy staying here for a moment, Hiyori declared and propped herself on Shinji's vacant armchair. Fine, thanks, Ichigo muttered with a smile and sat down for a few more minutes. So, Ichigo, just be calm and don't do anything outrageously stupid, K? Shinji warned Ichigo just as they were standing in front of the doors leading to the room where every captain's meeting took place. Kensei nodded in agreement, keeping the unusually serious and calm Mashiro behind him. Yeah, you know me, Ichigo answered, making small beads of sweat appear on the wizard's forehead. That's exactly why I'm telling you this, Shinji muttered and opened the doors. When he did, the murmur inside quieted down and the captains looked towards the oncomers. However, when they noticed Ichigo walking behind the expected visitors, their eyes widened and some of them had panicked expressions. Kurosaki, what are you doing here? Toshiro exclaimed worriedly. Well, at least he doesn't look angry, the young captain observed with a relieved sigh. Kayarako stared in Ichigo's eyes and then chuckled quietly. Always doing the unexpected, Ichigo-kun. Captain Commander squinted his eyes and flared his Ryatsu for a bit. Hirako Shinji, Mugiruma Kensei, Kuna Mashiro, we've been expecting you, but not you, Kurosaki Ichigo. What is your reason for being here? He asked in booming voice. Gee, thanks for at least noticing us, Shinji mumbled, irritated. Ichigo calmly strode forward. Well, wasn't it you people that suggested that I should stay in Soul Society in the first place? Why is it so odd that I'm here? Yamamoto's mouth twitched. Don't play games with me, Kurosaki Ichigo. I'm asking you, why are you here, at a captain's meeting? Ichigo faintly smiled and stepped aside. That can wait, sir. I was under the impression that these three were going to be appointed to their old positions? From sides, Unohana smiled while Kayaraku outright chuckled. Oh, he's pulling Yamaji's leg. You can almost see the frustration on his face. He whispered to Yukitake, who shook his head disapprovingly. With a tick mark on his forehead, Yamamoto barely managed to keep his cool as he turned to three wizards. Hirako Shinji, so you decided to take our offer and return to your old position as a captain of the 5th Division, what is your reason? Shinji grinned, showing the impressive set of teeth. My reason is simple. As a former captain of the 5th Division, I feel responsible for my inability to apprehend Sasuke Aizen before he did what he did. His actions are a black mark in the loyalty of my old division. He probably messed few minds, and I want to return the 5th Division to its former reputation, he stated, earning complimentary nods from the rest of the captains and the commander himself. Well said, Hirako Shinji. With this, I hereby appoint you again as the captain of the 5th Division, and I hope you will try your hardest. Take your Hiyori and stand next to your comrades, Yamamoto declared and nodded to his lieutenant, Shojiro Tadaoki Sasakaibe, to bring forth the Hiyori, which Shinji took and slipped into with style of his own, still grinning widely. He stood next to Unohana, who nodded to him. Ah, I didn't think that being back in this robe would feel so good, Shinji said with content sigh. Mugiruma Kensei, Kuna Mashiro. I take it that both of you want to return to your old division, however, the 9th already has a lieutenant. He trailed off and looked at them, expecting them to split into two different divisions. If I may, Commander, I'd like to appoint Kuna-san as the co-lieutenant of the 9th Division. I am familiar with the current lieutenant, Shuhei Hiseiji, who agreed to share his position with Kuna-san, Kensei announced smoothly, making Yamamoto raise his eyebrow. Is that so? He looked at him speculatively, when another voice spoke up. Captain Commander, sir, I apologize for interrupting, but I can confirm this, as Hiseiji-san revealed this to me few hours ago, Kamamura said, glancing at Kensei. So, this is the man that Shuhei-san idolized from early age. Yamamoto was deep in thoughts. He wanted to say that this was against the rules, but he couldn't do that. It wasn't proper. There was no law stating that a captain couldn't have more than a one lieutenant. He couldn't say that it was wrong. Glancing at Yukitake, who was adamant about not having his own lieutenant, instead preferring 2/3 seats, he frowned. He remembered Kensei from 100 years ago and his dynamic with his old lieutenant. Thinking fast, he even remembered the lieutenant, Mashiro, from when she was appointed to her post. She was one of the few Shinigami who preferred using her Hakuda to overwhelm her opponents and not a Zanpakuto. Being a person who was proud of his own Hakuda, Yamamoto could only appreciate a person like that. Moreover, there was the fact that having 2 lieutenants in the 9th Division would boost the strength of the Gotei 13. Hisagi together with Mashiro held a power almost comparable to a captain. It wouldn't take long before one of them would reach the strength of a captain alone. Settling on that, he closed his eyes. Very well. Kensei Muguruma, I already know your reason for returning to your old post, so I'll skip that question as I'm sure that your subordinate would answer the same. Therefore, I hereby appoint Muguruma Kensei for the 2nd time, as the captain of the 9th Division. I also appoint Kuna Mashiro as his lieutenant. Captain, take your Hayori, lieutenant, take the badge. He exclaimed, slightly surprising few captains with his decision, and watched as the Vizard duo took their accessories. When Kensei stood in his place, next to Kairaku, who tilted his hat to him in greetings, Mashiro happily bounced from the room, smiling encouragingly at Ichigo. Yamamoto then turned to Ichigo. Now, Kurosaki, explain yourself. With a small groan, Ichigo stepped out and walked in front of the commander. There isn't much to explain, sir. I only came to say that I have no intention on attacking Gotei 13 nor the Soul Society. I only ask for 2 things. Carefully, Kurosaki, don't do anything stupid. Toshiro prayed as small beads of sweat started to form on his brow. Commander, with his eyes still closed, nodded. I was hoping that we would remain allies. Let's hear it then. Ichigo inhaled deeply and formed the questions in his mind. First, I am convinced that by now, you must have figured a few things out, or at least Jin told you what he knew from his stay with Aizen, so I'll be blunt. I want to know if you knew, back then, when you received the order from the Soul King, stopping you from pursuing a hollow named Grand Fisher, who was attacking a human, if you knew that she was a Quincy and a wife of Isshin Shiba, the former captain of 10th Division. It's true then. Captain Shiba is still alive. Toshiro mumbled with a multitude of emotions raging through him. Small talk erupted among the captains, who, even after hearing the commander's theory previous day, were still slightly shocked. Yamamoto flared his Ryatsu again, silencing them. He gazed at the young substitute, who stared back at him unflinchingly. No. Ichigo, who was expecting more, recoiled a little. No? And you didn't think that it was weird that the Soul King himself was interested in the fate of one single human woman? He asked, a little frustrated. No. Orders, which come directly from the Soul King, are not ones we are permitted to question. It's unthinkable that the Gotei 13 would even consider doing that. We serve the Soul King, we are his military force, not his advisors. Yamamoto stated sternly. Ichigo grimaced a little, but was relieved internally. I guess I should be a little bit more happy, but hearing this is making it really difficult. He thought while Yamamoto studied his features. Is that answer sufficient? Ichigo shortly nodded. Yes, it was more or less what I expected, and what I hoped it would be. Ichigo replied cryptically. When Yamamoto raised his eyebrow in question, Ichigo continued. There is also the second thing. I'm requesting an audition with the Soul King. Captain Commander gaped at the substitute in front of him, hoping he heard wrong. Form sidelines, Shinji facebombed, along with Kensei. He said he would wait for Soul King to contact him, that idiot. A audition? That's outrageous. Kurosaki, I was slowly changing my opinion on you, but this is unprecedented. Suifoam stared at him in utter surprise. I agree with Captain Suifoam. This is preposterous, Kurosaki-san. You cannot just ask for an audition with the Soul King himself. Not even Captain Commander has competency to be able to that, and even if he did, I don't see a reason for you to see the Soul King. I'd even go as far as to say that you are the one who shouldn't see him. You have a reason for hating him. Your meeting is not a good idea. Kamamura agreed in a bark. Ichigo-kun, in this room there are only 2 people who saw the Soul King in person. That happened almost 1,000 years ago. There were other captains who saw him, but they are now members of the Zero Squad, or as others call them, the Royal Guard. You are not even a part of Gotei 13, so there is no way you'd be allowed to see him. Kayaraku added, but inside he was thinking otherwise. On the other hand, you managed many practically impossible feats, so I wouldn't be much surprised if you did even this. Yamamoto finally found his voice. As my fellow captain said, Kurosaki, your audacious request is impossible. It's so outrageous that it's even nonsensical to talk about it. Expecting this kind of reaction, Ichigo shook his head. Maybe to you, it is. But I'm actually convinced that he'll contact you requesting to see me soon. And when that happens, tell me, so that I can talk to him. There's something I want to ask him. He stated, refusing to back down. He'll request to see you? Don't speak so arrogantly, Kurosaki. Byakuya retorted. Why would he do such a thing? Yukitake asked after that. Ichigo looked at them and glanced at Yamamoto. They don't know? Yamamoto looked at him confused. First of all, can any of you sense my Ryatsu? I'm not suppressing it, nor am I hiding it. Ichigo questioned the captains. Now that you mention it, I knew there was something off with you. Toshiro replied puzzled. Mayuri suddenly stepped in. You actually did it, you mongrel. You united the powers inside you and became the first perfect natural hybrid, didn't you? He inquired in excited voice. Ichigo raised one eyebrow. So I was right, you were able to deduce that I wasn't using my Shinigami powers until recently. You're almost as fast as Urahara-san. He added, getting an angry sneer in response. Kuratsuchi-san's theory was right, then, is that why we are unable to sense you? Yukitake wanted to know. Ichigo shortly nodded. Yes. Urahara-san told me that I'm now a being that lives in on higher plane of existence, or something like that. Ridiculous comparison, if you ask me. Ichigo mumbled and turned to Yamamoto again, allowing the captains time to digest the new and stunning revelation. That is one of the reasons why Soul King would want to see me. He will probably feel threatened by my existence. I won't say anything as arrogant as to say that I've become unbelievably strong or anything of the sort, because my abilities have stayed the same. But at the same time, I will say that they become a lot more powerful. More damaging. That's exactly how you define someone who just got a hell a lot stronger. Shinji's sweat dropped a little. You mean there is another reason? Suifeng asked. Yes, and I'm baffled that you weren't told. Originally, I didn't want this to be known, but I don't think I would be able to convince you with just one reason. My father, Isshin Shiba, isn't a real Shiba. He's the last dash. He was cut off when Yamamoto swiftly flashed next to him and covered his mouth. Do not utter another word, boy. The commander commanded sternly. What is it, Yamaji? Kayaraku stared at Yamamoto, a little bit frustrated that Ichigo couldn't finish his sentence. Kurosaki, what you were just about to reveal is a secret, and only I, as the captain commander, know of it. The rest of Gotei 13 is in no position to learn about this information. Do I make myself clear? The old commander watched as Ichigo slowly nodded and dropped his arm. That makes it easier. You know why the Soul King would want to see me, so I don't think you can protest when the time comes. Ichigo said calmly. Yamamoto gritted his teeth. Careful, boy. Even if you are what you are, defiance will only anger me. Tell me, what would you want to ask the Soul King so badly? Shaking his head, Ichigo scoffed. I'm not defying anyone, and pardon my rudeness, sir, but why would I tell you that? Flaring his Ryatsu, Yamamoto's eyes glowed with power. Because if you won't, I'll be forced to beat it out of you. He warned him. The rest of the captains gulped a little. Oi, Kurosaki. Don't be stupid and just tell him, Kensei thought. Idiot,
you just went and provoked him.
You just promised me not even half an hour ago that you wouldn't do anything outrageous. Shinji sighed heavily. Oh, scary, this should be interesting, Jin grinned in amusement.
Ah well, it was fun knowing you, Kurosaki. Toshiro thought sadly. Don't damage my test subject. Mayuri mentally warned the commander. Well, we will at least know this.
Kayaraku smiled, but his smile faltered quickly with Ichigo's next words.
You can try, sir. Yeah?
The captains fell comically on the ground in shock.
This time, a large tick mark appeared on Yamamoto's forehead.
A second one appeared soon after.
Boy, did you just say what I think you said?
Yes, I will fight you.
If you won't listen to reason.
Ichigo stated resolutely.
Oh boy.
Kayaraku swallowed heavily and turned to Yukitake, who was still looking bewildered, and from the corner of his eyes, he noticed Unohana. When he caught her heavy breathing and bright glint in her eyes, he swallowed heavily again.
Oh boy indeed.
Zaraki Kenpachi raised his head from the gradually smaller pile of paperwork when he heard a loud knock on his door.
Captain.
I'm sorry for intrusion, especially after your warning that you want to complete your paperwork, but we just got a message that Kurosaki Ichigo is about to fight the captain commander.
Said officer of his division yelled through the door in excited tone.
Ikaku and Yumachika, who were helping their captain for past week, since he never actually bothered with the paperwork that was slowly stacking on his table since Aizen's betrayal, looked up with wide eyes and glanced at Kenpachi, whose mouth widened into a terrifying grin, and grinned themselves. They usually took care of the paperwork, but after Aizen's defection, focused on training and forgot about it completely. Oh, so Ichigo is finally in the mood for some fighting again, and he didn't come to me. That almost makes me sad. Zaraki stood up, and without bothering to open the doors, he ran out, demolishing the wall with a hysterical laugh.
Ikaku and Yumichika looked at each other, and in the next second, they were on their way too.
Guys! Mashiro yelled after she finally arrived to the room that belonged to Vizards.
What is it, Mashiro? You're panting quite heavily, what's so important?
Lisa asked with her head still immersed in her erotic magazine. It's Berry-tan, he told off the commander, and they're going to fight. She exclaimed, surprisingly serious. She turned her head when she heard a loud thud. The rest of the Vizards were sprawled on the ground and staring at her in disbelief.
You're kidding, right?
Love gaped at her. When she shook her head, they quickly got up.
Hachi, we need to go. If the rest of the Siratii hears about it, the idiots will go there to watch, and they will be squashed with the Ryatsu alone.
They'll need a powerful barrier. Rose nudged the pink-haired giant, who nodded and started to prepare the suitable Kido. Mashiro, lead the way.
I want to see Baldy getting his ass kicked. Hiyori grinned hungrily. Why do I have the feeling that won't happen? Love thought and followed his comrades. No one noticed the black cat following closely behind.
You know, I wonder how long it will take for Renji to actually admit it.
Shuhei told Takara while they drank a bit of sake. Ah, you know him, he's too stubborn to do it. Kira shook his head sadly. I'd like to know where's Nanao-chan, I'm bored. Ranjiku whined and quickly took a small sip of sake herself.
At that moment, the lieutenant of the 8th Division opened the doors and looked at them with a horror on her face.
Nanao-chan. We were just talking about you, where?
Ranjiku trailed off when she got a good look at the vice-captain.
What happened?
Iba slowly got up from his chair.
Nanao shook her head. That fool. Kurosaki Ichigo.
He argued with Captain Commander, and now they're about to fight. She stated and watched as the rest of the lieutenants gaped at her.
Even the stoic vice-captain of 12th Division, Nimue, was surprised by this revelation. The hell? Ranjiku jumped and turned to the rest.
Somebody should go tell Renji and Rukia, they would want to know.
Kara suggested in a panicked voice.
I already sent our third seat to their location.
Nanao replied and turned around. We should go too.
She added and flashed away while others shortly followed. That stupid, rash, insane idiot. Renji muttered under his breath, speeding through the Rukongai with Rukia closely behind him.
Ichigo, what are you doing? Rukia thought worriedly. Renji glanced back at her and sighed.
She must be worried sick. You suck, Ichigo.
Kurosaki Ichigo. I'm giving you one more chance to stop this nonsense. Are you willing to fight over something as trivial as that? Do you want to get punished so badly? Yamamoto asked in frustrated voice.
Not far from him, Ichigo was calmly looking back at him.
Yes. I am. Are you? Ichigo, not that I'm worried or anything, but are you doing this simply because you're being stubborn or do you have an ulterior motive for this? Zangetsu questioned Ichigo's actions with only slight tint of humor in his voice.
Of course. First, the old man should learn that I'm his ally, not his subordinate.
He can't order me around like he thinks he can. I'm not one of his tools.
If I want to share my thoughts with him, I'll do so, but if not, he needs to know that I'm not willing to obey him just like that, Ichigo retorted. You know, they may want to try to seal your powers because they'll decide that you're too dangerous to them. Ichigo smiled a little, confusing Yamamoto, who was staring at him.
It won't go that far, Zangetsu. I have more reasons for this fight, not just one. I want to test myself. Iwak is supposed to be as strong as Yamamoto, if not stronger. If I can't hold my own against the old man, how can I hope to defeat Iwak?
I want to also make the rest of the captains understand that some of them are weak. Well, that sounds arrogant. But Aizen did dispose of the most of them like they were nothing. They have to get stronger, he explained.
Ichigo, you do realize that not everyone has your potential, right? Zangetsu smirked at him. Is that a compliment?
I know that, but most of them are still young and I'm convinced that they can do better. Finishing his small talk with Zangetsu, Ichigo raised his head and focused on Yamamoto.
Let's go, sir.
He glanced around him to see that Hachi just set up a bright orange barrier. Thanking him mentally, as he was worried that people would get caught in the crossfire, he shifted his sight and watched as Yamamoto gritted his teeth, turning his cane into his Zanpakuto. The captain commander took off his Haori and Shihakusho just enough to reveal his scarred torso and raised his sword in front of him. I'm not sure about your intentions, as I don't believe it's just you being stubborn, but either way, you're about to get punished, boy.
Reduce all creation the ash, Ryujin Jaka.
He added, and Ichigo watched fascinated as Yamamoto's sword became engulfed in flames, heating up the area around him. Even from a distance he could feel the Ryatsu surrounding the old commander. However, he smiled a little when he realized that after uniting his powers inside him, he had actually surpassed the oldest Shinigami in terms of Ryatsu.
Your Zanpakuto is very nice, sir.
It almost looks like a red inferno, but two can play this game. From the sidelines, the captains and other Shinigami, along with Yamamoto, looked in surprise when Ichigo raised his own sword.
Set the darkness ablaze, Zangetsu.
He released his own Shurikai, intentionally pumping more Ryuryoku into the blade, and created a small black inferno around him. With a satisfied smirk, he thanked Lillinette, as when he trained her during those 3 days, Ichigo managed to grasp the character of his flames, bending them through his will. The only reason he didn't control them in his fight with the ancient was the fact that his emotions went haywire.
What?
Since when Ichigo had a released command for his Shurikai?
And since when has his Zanpakuto had a fire element?
Renji turned Rukia, who was staring back at him, completely clueless.
That is new. Kayaraku noted, blinking in surprise. Kurosaki, why do I feel something eerie from you flames? Yamamoto stopped in his tracks when Ichigo released his Zanpakuto. It's simple, the element of my Zangetsu is darkness, or more accurately, flames of darkness.
Ichigo replied and watched as the commander raised his eyebrows.
I see.
Was the only thing he said and flashed to Ichigo, intent on punishing him with his own flames. With a frown, Ichigo spun himself and blocked the strike, coming from behind.
Their clash resulted in a small shockwave, echoing through the area, vibrating the barrier set around them. Is that all?
I thought you were faster, sir. Ichigo stated, still frowning a little.
I'm not finished, boy.
Yamamoto retorted and started to use Shuinpa all around him, striking at every position. For the normal Shinigami, the oldest Shinigami would be just a blur, but not for Ichigo. He blocked and parried every attack that was thrown at him. After the last clash, he went on the offensive, using only his Zanjutsu skills, trying to push Yamamoto away. With a satisfied grin, he realized that he couldn't do it. He was faster, his slashes were stronger, but Yamamoto wasn't the captain commander for nothing, and his Zanjutsu was long miles ahead of Ichigo's, allowing him to keep up with the substitute just fine. Using his momentum from a jab, Yamamoto flashed behind him, trying to slice Ichigo's backside. To his utter astonishment, Ichigo didn't even turn and deftly caught his blade barehandedly. Did he just? Suifeng was trying to collect her jaw from the ground, without much success. Oh well, I didn't want to train with him that much. Shuhei confessed dryly. Well, I bet Yamaji didn't see that one coming. Kayaraka choked out. Oh yes. Yes, he will be my test subject even if I have to sacrifice half of my limbs. Mayuri mumbled instantly. The Shinigami around him stepped away in fright. Damn, his sword is hot. If I had held it for any longer, he'd fry my fingers, Ichigo thought in amazement and thanked his hollow side for his tough hierro. Yamamoto was standing a small distance away from him, baffled. He caught my blade? Impossible, it's like I'm fighting Ewok. He's the only other person who could do that, he shook his head. It wasn't time to dwell on that. It was time to punish the naughty boy. If Zanjutsu won't work, there are other ways. Bakudo number 61, Rikujikoro. He yelled and caught the surprised Ichigo with a binding spell. Oh. Kido already? Ichigo thought in mild amusement. It doesn't matter that you caught my blade once, boy, so don't get full of yourself. You won't be able to do it twice. Yamamoto stated and built up his Ryatsu, while Ichigo only waited. Heido number 88, Hiria Gekizoku Shinten Reiho. The commander yelled, and from his outstretched palm he fired a gigantic beam of electrical and spiritual energy that raced towards Ichigo in great speed, hitting him dead on. Seriously? Heido number 88? That's going overboard, Genryo Saidano. Yukitake exclaimed and twisted himself when he felt a hand on his shoulder. It belonged to Kayaraku, who only nodded to the fight. Just look. Lieutenants on the sidelines were watching the fight in awe. Damn, that was one crazy Kido, an ordinary Shinigami would be vaporized by now. IBA muttered. Well, Kurosaki Ichigo, are you ready to talk? I know that you're not dead, even if I can't sense your Ryatsu. Yamamoto trailed off when the smoke from the flashy Kido cleared and his jaw almost fell to his knees. Ichigo was walking towards him leisurely, dusting his clothes with a small grin on his face. Well. Never heard about that particular Kido before, but it seems interesting. He stated. Shinigami watching the battle couldn't even talk now. Their surprise was too much for them to handle. Even the captains were stunned. Not one of them dared to get hit by that particular Kido head-on and emerge unharmed. Yet Ichigo did it like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. The only one who wasn't stunned was Unohana. Oh, he just gets better and better. If this fight doesn't stop soon, I swear I'll kidnap him and... She wiped a small trail drool from her mouth and tried to shake the dirty thought from her mind. Impossible. Yamamoto muttered in disbelief. And yet here I am, sir. But don't think you're the only one who can do Kido anymore. Ichigo retorted and gathered his Ryuryoku. Raising his index finger, he aimed at Yamamoto. Heido number 4, Byakurai. He shot a concentrated bolt of lighting at the commander, who realized the danger and quickly performed a defensive Kido. Bakudo #81, Danku. A translucent barrier emerged in front of Yamamoto, stopping the Byakurai in its tracks. He was left stupefied, however, when the low-level Kido managed to create a small crack in his Bakudo. Come on. This is getting ridiculous. Byakurai damaging a Danku? Where's the fucking logic in this? Renji exclaimed, irritated. How far have you come, Ichigo? Do I really have no chance of reaching your level? I knew that he was strong,
but I agree, this is getting ludicrous. It's like he's not even trying.
Ikaku agreed with him, surprising Renji with his presence.
But you know, this is making him even more sexy.
Ranjiku pointed out slyly, earning a small hiss from Black Cat that was standing next to her.
This boy. Yamamoto growled. Hado number 63, Raikoho?
He yelled, sending another lighting strike at Ichigo, who raised his eyebrow.
Bakudo number 8, Seiki.
The Hado bounced off his small barrier, however, his Bakudo shattered in the process.
That was a Hado of lower level than the previous one, that means.
Ichigo noted and twisted himself, blocking a strike from behind, creating another small shockwave. You know, Commander, you really like attacking from behind. Yamamoto scoffed and jumped away, after his charge got interrupted.
Everything is allowed in a battle. You do anything to win. Doing anything less is only foolish and naive.
Ichigo shortly nodded and jumped above him, intending on cleaving the old man in two. He was blocked, but Yamamoto's hand almost buckled under the force behind the slash. Still in midair, Ichigo twisted his body and aimed a kick at Commander's head, that was barely dodged.
In retaliation, Yamamoto grabbed his leg and threw him away. As I said, don't get ahead of you, boy.
I have been the Captain Commander for past 1,000 years.
This is nothing. He grunted. I see, maybe it's time for retirement?
Ichigo smirked and flashed to him, using his full speed and punched him in the gut.
Yamamoto couldn't react in time and was sent flying.
He painfully crashed in the wall of the barrier with a small grunt.
Oi, bad move, Ichigo-kun, you never say to Yamaji that it's time to retire, unless he brings it up himself. Kayarako cringed when he could feel Commander's angry Ryatsu even through the barrier. Ichigo tilted his head while Yamamoto slowly got up. You know, there's something that's been bugging me.
I almost thought that the rest of the captains would jump at me when I said I would fight you. He covered his eyes, when the flames of Ryujin Jaka fiercely bursted from Yamamoto.
Retire? Rest of the captains? Don't make me laugh, boy. I said that you need to be punished. Other captains would only get in my way. He growled.
Ichigo grimaced and prepared himself.
Oh well, it seems I finally pissed him off. Yamamoto raised his blade. Taimatsu! He yelled and a huge torrent of flames erupted from his Zanpakuto, flying at Ichigo. Wow, he thought and raised his blade too. And Jutsu no Ka. His black flames met the ones of Ryujin Jaka in midway and fought for dominance. Both of the fighters pumped their Ryuryoku into their respective Zanpakuto, fueling the flames, refusing to back down. Those on the sidelines could only watch, swallowing whatever little water was left in their parched throats. It seemed for a while that Ryujin Jaka was proving its strength as the strongest Zanpakuto in Soul Society. Its flames pushed the black ones back before the black ones began licking at the red, finally overcoming them. They took aim quickly at Yamamoto, who somehow managed to get over his surprise just in time and flashed to safety. When the flames disappeared and Ichigo couldn't see the commander, with a sigh he quickly spun, just in time to see another set of flames rapidly coming at him. He really likes to strike from behind. Yami no Tsukitate. He yelled and erected a shield of darkness, canceling Yamamoto's attack. Time to get on offensive. Ichigo thought and flashed away, again using his maximum speed and evading Commander's sight. The oldest Shinigami stood still, ready to defend himself. Hado number 1, Show. He was sent flying back and just as he was about to correct his trajectory, Ichigo was already behind him. Bakudo number 1, Sai. The weakest Bakudo in Hands of Transcendental took a few seconds for Yamamoto to dispel and Ichigo took the chance. From above, he sliced the air below him. Anjetsu no Ka. From the close distance, Yamamoto had no chance and was engulfed in black flames. Ichigo wiped a sweat from his brow. He should be lucky I can now use the flames without that torturing ability. No way, he's winning? Suifeng whispered in shock and turned to her peers. You all know what? I'm done. I'm wasting no more breath for this.
Ichigo crossed the limits of the Shinigami, so I ain't even mad that he's clearly stronger than someone like me, who's hundreds years older than him. Shinji announced, wildly waving with his hands. I'm standin' behind my words, Ichikuan.
You're a scary kid.
Jin muttered and almost grinned when he thought about the next time Aizen would meet Ichigo.
Oh, Captain Dixon, you'll be very surprised, he thought, borrowing Ichigo's nickname for Aizen for a moment. Yo, old man Yamaji, you okay?
Ichigo called out to the smoke. After a few moments the smoke cleared, revealing slightly charred Yamamoto. Part of his beard had been burnt away, a trail of blood dripped from his mouth.
Damn you, Kurosaki Ichigo. Yamamoto cursed.
I hope that this means you're giving up,
Ichigo stated. He frowned when Yamamoto flared his Ryatsu. No. Ichigo glared at him. In that case, I'll finish it. He muttered and focused on his energy.
Zangetsu told him that even if he was transcendental, if he focused enough, he could suppress his Hollow and Quincy side for a while, creating a moment when his Ryatsu could be sensed by Shinigami.
Concentrating hard, he gritted his teeth. Yamamoto and the rest of the onlookers watched him in confusion.
Just as Yamamoto was about to flash to him, he was hit with a Ryatsu he'd never felt before. It was something unimaginably strong.
Stronger than anything he'd felt.
With his tired body, he was forced to stand still, the Ryatsu pressing on him, preventing him from any movement.
This Ryatsu, it's even easily above my own.
The raw pressure of it broke the barrier surrounding the two combatants like it was made of thin glass, sending a shockwave through the crowd, knocking several people out and sending several more to their knees. It took them a few seconds, but captains immediately started to flare their own Ryatsu, trying to prevent the weak officers from suffering any injuries. Hachi, who was trying to keep the barrier alive, his visored mask present on his face, was sent flying.
Ichigo didn't notice and focused on Yamamoto.
Enough of this, Captain Yamamoto. I didn't want to fight so that I could kill you, or even wound you. I only want you to see for yourself that I am not part of Gotei 13. I'm not your soldier, but your ally.
You can't just order me around.
Call it arrogant, call it rude, but you need to understand that. He stated and slowly walked to him.
This fight was also to test myself and so that you can see the reality.
Your best years are behind you. You got old, you lost your arm and refused to get help from my human friend that could give it back to you.
What if Iwak came here with the same amount of power I hold?
Ichigo asked the frozen commander. You said it yourself, that in a battle, you have to use everything at your disposal.
So tell me, why did you refuse to get your arm back? Is it because you don't want to get humans involved? Well, good morning to you, sir. We have been involved ever since we first invaded Soul Society. I hope you understand that I only fought you for your own good. When he got near the oldest Shinigami, his frown disappeared and waited until Yamamoto looked at his face. Are you still going to fight me? Will you even use your Bankai?
Would you go that far, simply because someone, who's not under your command, refused to tell you his little secret? I still won't tell you what I want to ask him, but know one thing. I don't plan on fighting him, so... Will you still try to force me to tell you more? Ichigo asked him with serene face. Yamamoto widened his eyes a little. So that was his intention. He sighed a little and after a moment he shook his head. I feel like a child that's being scolded and it should be the other way around. I'm the one who should be scolding him, yet he's quite right. I didn't want to get humans involved anymore. I was also too proud to get help from them. For 1,000 years, I have been the strongest Shinigami. It seems that this title is no longer valid. No. I wouldn't use my Bankai for something so trivial, it's too dangerous. He chuckled a little, confusing everyone, including Ichigo. Kurosaki, maybe you're not such a little kid anymore. You certainly aren't stupid either. Your intentions were good, but the execution was still rash. Fine. I understand what you wanted me to understand. Now, release the pressure, or you'll kill my men. Yamamoto announced, making Ichigo to turn around in shock. Shit. He cursed and quickly let his Ryatsu become undetectable again. Those who were around them and still were conscious, with one exception, sighed in relief as the incredible pressure that almost squashed them disappeared.
That one exception being Unohana, who almost whined. Knew that Ryatsu I needed back. I almost came, give it back, Ak.
She straightened herself and flushed in embarrassment. I have to get myself together. Oh, I'm so wet, I have to change my clothes.
Ichigo offered his hand to Yamamoto. So, does this mean that I can call Oraheim to restore your arm?
That wraps up this part of What If Ichigo Awoke His True Powers.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.